Welcome to a series of podcasts discussing series of films.
I'm Matt.
I'm Dave.
In a world inundated with prequels, sequels, spin-offs, and reboots, we ask the question,
Do we need one more? I think we do.
I think we don't.
Hey, welcome to episode 2 of We Need One More. I'm David Patrick Vera.
I'm Matthew Davies-Morris.
We're talking Spider-Man 2.
That's right.
Last week we talked Spider-Man 1. We talked about how J.K. Simmons is a national treasure.
Absolutely he is. He is my most watched actor of 2024.
Really?
I just got my letterboxed year in review this morning.
Oh, nice. So, like, are you signed up for like the full thing to get that stuff, or did they just give it to you?
They do it for free for everybody at the end of the
I was
year.
like, I gotta pull mine up. Maybe we can pull it up at the end and see what happens.
That would be fun. Actually, I would love that because my most watched director was Gore Verbinski.
Really?
Because I rewatched the Pirates movies, and obviously he did the first 3.
Yeah.
And I guess that was enough. I only watched 2 movies of every other director at most.
And so his trilogy capped it off.
Yeah, but Simmons,
because
I watched.
we didn't get to, we haven't gotten to Spider-Man 3 yet, so it would have been Raimi.
I know.
I'm a tie.
But yeah, they do it. If you're like a patron or pro, you can access those stats like year round. But if you just have like a free membership, which I have, they come out and they do a whole thing. So I watched.
Well, I'm excited.
155 movies last year.
Nice.
I had free time.
Same. I got you beat. I had like 178 movies on my list.
Nice. Our shout out to a mutual friend, our friend Nathan. He managed to clock 200.
Oh, do we really?
Yeah, he snuck a couple of short films in there. I'm
Okay,
not meaning
that's
to
pushing it a little bit, but
he got it. I mean, if I talked to him about it because he was like, I don't know if I think I enabled him. He was like, do the shorts count? And I said, if they're on Letterboxed, then they count.
that's fair.
And he said, thank you, that's all I need.
He's like, we're done here, and you're
Yeah.
like, where'd he go?
I was like, what? I was like, we're still at work. What do you?
He just disappeared.
Yeah. But yeah, J.K. Simmons, national treasure. Very happy that he's my most watched actor because I also, like we said, we rewatched, like we said in the last episode, we rewatched the Spider-Man movies in theaters, and kind of, I guess, jumping into this one.
Yeah.
Oh boy, like the first one and the third one, which we'll get into in the next episode.
Yeah.
Were very fun theatrical experiences.
Very fun.
This one was incredible because I feel like it was just a group of people who have grown up watching this movie and all were together, like acknowledging with each and every person in the theater being like, yeah, this movie rips.
Yeah, it's like fun because like that's like the funnest. That's like the funnest. I'll do some real English, I guess. But like one of the best parts of like the theatrical experience is like everyone together cheering and clapping or crying at the same moments.
Heck
and
yeah.
like going back to like Avengers Endgame, like that is like a very iconic moment. You go back to the 70s, Star Wars, the Death Star blows up, everyone's clapping. Like Spider-Man 2 going back to theater. It's funny because like I don't think like the theater reaction when I was there on the day in like 2004 or whatever was like, it was good obviously, but like now having like the memory to like really like exist and be like, no, I really remember like everyone's reactions to it at the same time, like as fans, like,
Yeah.
it's like, I was like, these are my people. I'm home.
Heck, I honestly, like I said in the last week's episode, I don't remember watching 1 and 2 in theaters. So it was nice to like have a memory of seeing it in theaters because like I couldn't imagine what it was. I guess I could. There are movies that have been out that are also like classics that I, like Avengers or whatever that people go in and there's that moment of like, oh, things are different. Spider-Man 2, I could imagine walking out of and being like, especially as a comic book fan, especially at the time where like, in 2004, we're pre-Iron Man, we're pre-Batman Begins.
Yeah, we haven't done all that yet.
Exactly.
The
so
whole,
it's like
the dark and gritty era.
my favorite era of superhero movies. We'll get into that later.
We'll get into it later.
I like Nolan's Batman movies, but I
do
have, there were some repercussions.
Some unforeseen consequences.
That's
guess.
true. That's true. But I can't imagine seeing this movie, being a comic book fan when comic book movies aren't as accepted.
Yeah.
I suppose, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, like it's almost like taken for granted.
Yeah,
Like
well,
I think, yeah, and like it's like at least like at the time, like I think we all like loved it, and obviously they're very successful. But like,
yeah.
I think like the idea that like we're like, oh, like surely these get better, and it's like we're in sort of like a weird phase now of like them not being very good.
Yeah.
So it's like fun to go back and be like, wow, that really was like a masterpiece. Like,
Well, I think also, and kind of reiterating something we said last week, like this is an era of superhero movies where like the name character alone is kind of all that
yeah,
seemingly all that execs really are interested in.
yeah.
Like again, we talked like Ang Lee's Hulk that
Kids
they were
only care about Spider-Man.
that is true.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I do care about
Quote. That's a quote.
Spider-Man. That is a quote. But like that, like they were doing. Oh, we'll do a Hulk movie, but who does he fight? It doesn't really matter. It doesn't. The
Yeah.
only comic book thing will be the title character themselves.
Pretty much, yeah.
And these series of movies, the last one and this one, like are so clearly love letters to an era of Spider-Man, and specifically kind of that or initial 60s era of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That Sam Raimi clearly has an appreciation for, and I think he, we have such an incredible performance in Willem Dafoe, and we get an even just as iconic performance in Alfred Molina. Like, I think kind of if we do so dare to jump into the movie,
Yeah,
one of my like first things in rewatching it in the theater and rewatching it for these episodes, like I don't think the first Spider-Man movie looks bad necessarily, but it is crazy how much better that this movie looks.
It is.
Like immediately.
Well, it's like this one looks like a proper blockbuster. The first one feels kind of like an indie movie, like a really expensive one, but like it's got like there's a little bit more texture in that first one, and this one everything's like really polished.
Well, I think also something I think we referenced last week. This is shot by the great Bill Pope.
Bill Pope
shot
yes.
many
who I
wonderful...
incorrectly said shot the first one.
I mean, honestly, his like footprint on these movies, I feel like are so like they're just as iconic as Elfman or Raimi or whoever.
Yeah, it's just like another great addition to like the whole team, like of everyone.
Well, it's like everything in this movie is like basked in like some kind of golden hue. Like Raimi is so into like leaning into the more like I want to say grandiose, like they're just kind of like very like old Hollywood vibe.
Yeah, well, the whole thing feels like golden hour.
Yeah,
like just like the whole thing, like it's just a very warm feeling movie. But
I think it's just there's like that like constant backlight almost that like makes Raimi's tone like amplified even more, which I think is part of the many ingredients that makes this movie so iconic. But like my favorite thing that I feel like this movie does, I think they've said too, it does the Superman 2, obviously he loses his powers, but it also does a lot of callbacks to the first one. And I think my favorite being this, like, kind of like how like James Bond movies, we jump into Bond on like a mission.
Yeah.
That we jump into like Peter Parker having to do something incredibly everyday and kind of mundane.
Yeah.
Like
just a 9 to 5.
Yeah. Like it's like in the first one, he's like catching a school bus. And in the second one, he's like trying to keep his job.
Yeah.
Like we don't start with like Spider-Man, fighting. So not saying that I'm against Spider-Man fighting people, but like, I do love it when Spider-Man
Violence
is in the movie.
Never the answer, Matt.
That's true. But there is a man in a trench coat with big robot arms.
I take it back. Let's see some violence.
So, I want to see him, throw like clocks at each other, whatever they do in this movie.
I mean, there's so many great action sequences in this movie. Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, but like, even again, like jumping, they like amplify it even more. Like, the struggling to catch the school bus is very simple, very like Peter, you just shot like very, again, not mundane, but every day. And this one still has that, but like the score underneath of like Peter trying to deliver pizzas within 29 minutes.
Like dramatic tension of all that, of like, he can't lose this job.
Yeah.
And it's going to hurt.
Well, like one of my favorite shots is when he's, they say like, hey, you got to do this, otherwise we're going to lose business to Pizza Yurt, blah, blah, blah. And he's trying to get there, and he's on his little scooter, and he looks up at the clock, and there's that like like quick
Yeah,
zoom.
the snap, the what is it? Like a snap zoom, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Like right to the clock. I was just thinking about that shot, like the drama of like, I'm running out of time.
Yeah, and like that's I think, again, Raimi's so in pocket of what makes Spider-Man so empathetic
Yeah,
is that this is just as important almost as
yeah. It's just being Spider-Man is like the curse, but like it does ruin his life.
yeah.
And there's a movie about those like consequences.
And I think what's really great too about this, like kind of the structure and staging of this initial sequence, is the fact that he initially starts as this whole movie is about, like most Spider-Man movies, is about the balance between Peter Parker and Spider-Man. And like, is that possible? And if so, how? And the fact that we start with Peter on a scooter trying to, zoom around New York with a bunch of pizzas, it's not working. He leans on Spider-Man. He goes, okay, well, I can't do this. Like, clearly this is not a job for Peter Parker.
He's like, I need a hero.
He's holding out for a hero.
In the middle of the night?
Until in this case, until the end of the shift. But presumably,
yeah,
maybe he works until night. It's New York.
It is New York.
They never sleep.
That's
what I've been told. But he leans on Spider-Man to try to fix Peter Parker issues, basically. And what I love is that, again, it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
He
still loses his job.
And Emily Deschanel looks at him and she's like, just so you know, this is going to be the dramatic tension of this entire movie.
Yeah. Just you trying to be somewhere and then having to be Spider-Man. Like, just that whole balance of the whole thing. It's really, I mean, it's done so well in this movie, the whole balance. But did you want to do we want to start from the very beginning? Because I have one note. We could just keep going since we're kind of.
Yeah, I mean, we're still kind of in the beginning.
I was going to say, my first note literally is just the Alex Ross recap for the opening credits.
Oh my God. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only reason I wanted to go back was so we could shout out Alex Ross and all of his insane artwork in that movie.
100%. Also, it's such a good way to utilize I know we talked about like in the first episode of opening credits and that, sometimes people check out of them and stuff like that. And we both love the opening credits in the first one, but they
it's just webs.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And vague 3D models of the Green Goblin.
Yeah, and then and 3D models of Spider-Man kind of like harnessing the webs to become a hero, I guess. But for the most part, it's just the score. Like you could miss all that and it wouldn't, other than like setting the tone for, the next 2 hours,
Sure.
But like with this one, it's like a last time on Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He got bit by a bug. Now he's a hero. It's ruined his life. His best friend hates him. He killed his best friend's dad. Hence why he hates him.
It's become quite a problem for.
Oh, by the way, this
Peter
is
Parker.
a spoiled-filled evening.
Yes.
Spoilers. Also, the movie's been out for how many years now?
Well,
2004.
in this summer it'll be like 21.
Yeah. Okay. So
which is
you've had 20 years to watch it. So
yeah. Yeah. We're gonna each of these episodes we're gonna go in unless it's maybe like a new movie that we're gonna cover.
Yeah. If we have a new movie, we'll try to separate that. I guess
there's certainly some plans for some new movies that are coming out this year that we're gonna cover on the podcast, but. If it's a movie that has been out for a while, we're gonna just jump into spoilers. So hopefully watch along, continue to watch the movies with us. Obviously these movies are very popular and successful. Mm-hmm. Like I'm sure people have seen these movies time and time again. But for a future episode, we're gonna be talking about some movies that did not have the cultural footprint of Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2.
Yes. And we are going to release a schedule for everything so you guys can watch along with us.
Yeah.
And let us know if you do and if you're enjoying this. It'll be sort of like a book club situation, I guess.
Heck yeah.
We can get your guys' thoughts.
And maybe we'll cover the book club films. Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, right? Who's excited? I'm excited.
All right, I'm in.
All right, good. I'm glad we've just established that as we're recording.
Didn't take much convincing, but I'm in.
Hey, well, they're fun. You see 80 for Brady?
No, I didn't see 80 for Brady.
It's pretty entertaining. It's not bad. Anyways, I think the choice to do the artwork, recapping the first movie, is a perfect choice. Getting Alex Ross to do it, obviously he did concept artwork on the first movie.
Yes, which some of that concept art made it into the video game, which is cool. Like there's a suit that's like unlockable, and it's what Alex Ross like pitched as like the movie version of the suit. It actually ended up becoming the basis for the
Superior Spider-Man,
yes,
right?
Yeah,
okay.
when Doc Ock becomes Peter Parker.
Yes,
and he's like his version of the suit is actually the Alex Ross suit that was like pitched. And rejected, but still a very cool looking suit.
Very cool.
And I loved playing it in the game because I was like, yeah, this is pretty badass.
Fair, valid. But I do love that, like, it's almost evident, yeah, from the begin, literally from the opening credits, that it's like we've like refined what made the last movie so great.
Yeah, it really is like
We're not rehashing.
We're not
but-
rehashing, and it's not even like we're gonna like beat for beat this, but we are gonna do a lot of callbacks. But it's like we're kind of this first movie, but more polished, like,
Yes.
which is so cool.
Agreed. And yeah, going in again, like the to continue like Peter Parker struggling, which is so integral to his character, and making sure that, like, you know, there's kind of the cliched, there's a whole book about it, the save the cat moment, right? Spider-Man, I mean, he's Spider-Man. Like, we all know he's the good guy. So, like, instead of taking that and going, okay, instead of, like, let's make the character likable, because inherently, you know, you're probably going in with the understanding that, like, you're going to root for this guy, that the decision is, okay, let's make him relatable. You know, that we're going to put something that people can relate to, which is baked into the character, but also, like, I think the choice to make it something as simple as, like, trying to, like, be, like, at least, like, you know, to just do your job, basically. Like, just do a day job, which can be difficult.
Rent's due.
That's true.
And we'll get to the rent.
Wait to get into Mr. Ditkovich. But yeah, I think what's nice is kind of like in the first movie how we're so quickly doing shorthand of everyone's relationships and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And setting up the place, the pieces, you know, the like tactile pieces of the characters and all that stuff. This one we immediately jump into thematically what the issue is going to be.
Yeah.
Of, you know, having Peter trying to successfully deliver pizzas and that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And he gets fired in maybe the perfect sticker rip tear.
It's so good. Like, it's such a good visual, like, because, like, one of the things I love about this is everyone who's so disappointed in him are, like, always, like, they always reiterate, I like you. You're a good guy, but you suck.
Yeah.
Like, you at the same time, like, you're not here. Like, I really like you. I want to like you, but, like, dude, you're not doing the job.
Yeah. It's everyone.
What is it, like, you're just not dependable, I think is what the guy says.
Well, even jumping, like, basically right after that, it's these, like, constant, I think I said in the first episode, it's marvelous how, like, apparently God hates Peter Parker. Because, you know, he goes to see Kurt Connors, and there's that great moment where he says, "I'm trying to be here," and Connors responds with, "Then be here."
Yeah.
You know,
just very frank, very, like, look, it is also, like, shout out to that teacher, though, because he's like, look, I understand you're a good kid and you got some stuff going on, but your paper is, like, way overdue.
Yeah.
Like, I'm giving you some leadway and I don't feel like you're taking that seriously. And it's like, like,
he's also so perfectly, like, Dylan Baker's great, and it is a bummer that we did not get to see him as the Lizard, but, like, the whole moment where he's like, "Parker, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "What do you mean? I'm coming here to take your class." And his whole, "My class is over. See me standing here?" Like,
not behind the desk. Like,
yeah, he's like, how would we be having this conversation
if my class was still happening? Yeah.
That people are, like, wanting to like Peter Parker.
Yeah.
That people do like Peter Parker.
Like, everyone's, like, kind of rooting for him, but they're also kind of tired of waiting.
Yeah. It's everyone's, I think, is, like, ultimately exhausted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With his, you know, excuses, basically. You know, obviously, we, the audience, have the understanding of why
what's actually happening. Yeah. Which is, like, the whole, like, conflict with him and Mary Jane in this movie. Like the whole back and forth. Like, the writing for their relationship is so interesting.
Yeah.
I forget. Was this David Cope came back for this one too, or is this a different script?
Cap has, I think, a story credit, but this one's actually written by Alvin Sargent.
Okay.
Yeah, so we got a new writer.
Familiar.
I should have looked at his credits. I did not.
Let's go to the board, see what else he has done.
Sounds good. As you do that, I will say, like, I think, you know, building again off of the first movie, I think we talked about narrative runway, that there's so much narrative runway in that first movie leading into this. And with Peter and MJ, I love that Mary Jane is like, okay, fine. Like, look, like, I opened my heart to you. I wanted to be with you. You ultimately acknowledge that you want to stay friends. And that's fine. I have accepted that. I have moved on. And Peter, because he does want to be with her, but because of the responsibility of being Spider-Man, he can't and all that stuff. He still does want MJ. So the idea of, like, being that person on the other side and getting this, like, constant mixed signals, like, her frustration of, like, I don't like, you want to come to my show, but you don't come. Aunt May has seen my show. Like, like
She's like, but like, yeah, like Harry's seen it twice. My man's been there multiple times.
yeah, she says her dad went
My dad came to borrow money.
but he
but
came.
he's still there.
And I think, again, it's that exhaustion with people. Everybody is kind of exhausted with Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And you get to watch Toby, as Peter, grapple with that. And you get to see kind of the building blocks of this ultimate breaking point, right? And where I think we were talking a little bit off air, and I think I referenced earlier, like this movie does the Superman 2, I'm going to give up my powers and have a normal life thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that this movie does it better. I love Chris Reeve. I love the Donner Superman movies. Yeah. They are movies that we may or may not be covered at some point on this podcast.
Maybe.
Slight tease.
Maybe not in the next couple
continue to
weeks.
Follow. Who knows? But I think this movie makes it a lot more like consistently relevant. I think it makes it more easier to understand, right? I mean, in No Way Home, they even have the reference. He's like existential crisis stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That it's not about like, I think there were drafts where Peter was like, someone gave, like, there were like more plot reasons for why Peter is losing his powers in earlier drafts. Because they were racing. I mean, this movie comes out 2 years after the original.
Yeah,
right?
that means they had to have been in production like almost immediately.
Yeah.
Like,
so like having to, I mean, this movie went through so many different versions. Like I know Doc Ock at one point was going to be a peer, that it was going to be a love triangle between him, MJ, and Peter. Yeah.
Really?
That they were going to do like a guy in his 20s to play Doc Ock. Good choice. I don't think
that would have worked. But who from this era would have got that gig if they went young and hot?
From 2004, 2003?
I will say, I do know, because there was like some contract negotiation things, and there was like the whole Toby might not come back, that Jake Gyllenhaal almost was Spider-Man.
I think he said he got a call that it was like, hey, this
You're
isn't
on deck.
official, but yeah, if it happens, you're on deck.
Start doing some push-ups.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's like, I just did Jarhead. Like, I'm good.
Yeah, don't worry. I am Jake Gyllenhaal. I am constantly looking like I am superhero.
Actually, I was going to say, I don't think he did Jarhead yet, but now I want to look that
up. 2003 actors that could have played Doc Ock. That's a good question.
I know. I wanted to play a game like this last week, but now that you've said that, I'm like, we got to take a moment.
I like Google actors in the 2000s.
Not to keep changing the subject, but Alvin.
Yes, Sargent.
He did Ordinary People, that Donald Sutherland movie, and then he also did Paper Moon, which I think was nominated for some awards back in the day.
Yes.
His other most notable credits is he writes Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man. He came in for that one.
That's right.
And that's his last screenplay. He retired after that.
Well, I could imagine too, because I know Amazing Spider-Man was, I don't know plot-wise how much is kept over, but very famously, that was going to be Spider-Man 4. There's that tweet that has the release date. It's like July 2011 or whatever.
The infamous.
Yeah, and then they decided we're rebooting. I think James Vanderbilt comes in and does a rewrite and all this other stuff. But Sargent, I think, builds off of Cap.
I think he builds
stuff.
off of all the stuff Cap set up in the first movie, like, beautifully. Like, it's another, like, really, like, solid script. It's like, I think the kind of the thing with these movies that does get like weaker in a weird way, but like it works, but it's sort of like, I think in the grand like scheme of like society and the movie's aging, I guess it's just the way that Mary Jane is written, like the way the women sort of get objectified the more we get into the series
100%.
is kind of unfortunate. But going back to sort of the psychological element of these movies, like the games that Mary Jane would, like, if you see this movie through her lens of like, hey, I opened up to you and then you put me in the friend zone and then you came back and like tried to shoot your shot and then you like put me back in the friend zone again.
Yeah.
Like Peter's like really toxic from her perspective, like for a good chunk of this movie.
Oh yeah. Peter, like,
not that she's not doing her own like shady things like on the side, which we'll get to later.
Oh yeah. A specific moment.
I have a note and I remember the audience like groaning.
I will back up MJ on Peter being a complete, no show basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is one moment that I'm like, well, okay, maybe we don't do that.
Yeah. You kind of get to the point though where you're like, maybe they deserve each other.
Yeah. But I think like this again, like going back and forth, I will say something that I think the movie, again, building off the first one so perfectly, they recognize that the Daily Bugle was like one of the highlights because
Oh yeah, there's
it's like third scene.
third scene.
Is
Yeah,
the
that's
Daily
like, out of the
Bugle.
gate. They're like, get JK in as fast as possible.
Yeah, and we get that constant rattle up. I think this is the part where it's like your wife lost her checkbook. Thanks for the good news. Like all like
Was
we
that
just
this
have.
one or was that the first one?
I think it's hard to tell. Honestly, all these scenes blend together because it's just J.K. Simmons just rattling off.
He's just like
joke after joke,
eating everyone alive. He's so good.
Yeah, he really
Now, to be
is.
fair, everyone in these scenes are like so good in their own right, and then they support him. But it is like funny where you're like, yeah, that guy's just running circles around everyone.
I have a note in my notes that just says the great Bill Nunn. Obviously playing Robbie Robertson. That I'm
Yeah.
just like, he shows up, and I wish he was in these movies more because he's so good. And like even that little moment that we get later in the movie where I heard Spider-Man was there, and he gives him that
It
look.
gives that like I see you,
wish
bitch.
Robbie was involved more.
I
in
really
the
do,
plot
yeah.
because he's so good. But I appreciate that like literally from the get-go they're like, yeah, don't worry, the Daily Bugle is going to be involved because
Yeah.
we know that you all ate them up.
Yeah, no, I think the conversation in this one is Peter's brought in like the other photos that aren't Spider-Man, and
Yeah.
he's like, what is this, some old geezers playing in
Geezer's
the
playing
park?
chess. Yeah.
Ms. Brent, bring me a violin.
That's right. The violin one is really good. But again, it's
Like we got a fifth page issue. He's like, we got a front page issue. Get out.
what does he say? He's like, he like Rancid Chicken Spark City or something, and Ted Raimi jumps in and he goes, "Some food got poisoned."
He's like,
He
I'm a
goes,
little nauseous.
It's so good. There's gonna be a couple. I have another note of like my favorite line reading in the movie is from J.K. Simmons. Surprisingly,
Is the bar of soap line?
it's not the bar of soap, but that is good.
Not to jump around.
It's I'll wait until we get there in the plot,
Yeah.
but again, in this issue again, it's Peter Parker having to like turn to Spider-Man to solve his problems. But even then there's the issue of like, okay, he's only going to get paid if he gives Spider-Man's photos, but Spider-Man's going to get smeared. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
it's like he can pay rent or he can watch the public opinion of him get like ridiculed.
Yeah.
You know.
But he's already, when we jump in, he's already behind. Like in Saving the Pizzas, he's already late.
Yep.
Like, and in this,
Somebody stole that guy's pizzas.
such a good moment. And also the
we
fact
could spend a whole hour on just that first pizza like sequence.
it really is such a good setup of like, hey, just so you know, like this is what's gonna go.
Yeah.
This is how this movie's gonna go.
Yeah, and, like
But I think like having Jonah sit there and just basically yell at him for trying to have a life outside of Spider-Man. He's like, no, this is not exactly what you need to do.
Yeah.
And then when he finally gets paid for, supporting his whole good intentions being plastered,
yeah.
Elizabeth Banks is like, this isn't enough, by the way, to cover your advance.
And he's just like, oh,
Like he is constantly trying to get ahead,
he's so behind.
and he is
And as
never
someone with ADHD who is chronically like overwhelmed all the time, it's so relatable.
like,
Like
100%.
Like it's just like I'm like, oh my god, I've never realized like how relatable this. Just like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm not gonna put any money away this month, like,
Yeah.
because it's too tight.
Again, it's part of what makes this character so instantly relatable and by that extent iconic is that everyone has been there. Like I will be running late
Yeah.
to work and I'll be like, hey, Spider-Man had to do this. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
like everybody can understand where he's coming from.
Yes.
And then obviously we go into the fact that like this, not only has this day been shitty, but it's also his birthday.
It's his
and
birthday.
he forgot. Like,
Jamie
it's-
Foxx would be excited.
Oh, what if it was his birthday? though?
What if it was his birthday?
Have we considered the concept if it was his birthday? I don't think we've considered it enough.
Not enough. No.
Um,
No. But that's so fun. What is it when they say when they're like they're like say something? They're like happy birthday, and then he's like, I keep wanting him to be like something.
yeah.
like she's just like
Well, because he's so clearly like distraught, like not distraught, but just like caught off guard
I know.
by everybody being there. And then James Franco goes ahead and becomes an absolute emotional roller
He
coaster.
is so like that, like, yeah, I'm your friend and you've been avoiding me, man, like I miss you, but also like, what about the bug?
I hate you.
I hate you. Like I hate you.
Like it's we said in the last episode, Harry Osborn sucks. He's a bad
He does.
friend. He's not a
Yeah,
good guy.
it's again, I think one of the highlights of the writing of this is you really do understand why everyone's behaving the way they are.
Yes.
Which I think does give everyone the depth. So like it's like it is just, but it's like, as someone you really want to see them be good people, you're like, oh, like, come on, man.
Yeah. Well, even like because like Harry clearly wants to be. He does care about Peter, despite the fact that he's a bad friend. Harry Osborn is a bad friend.
He's a pretty bad friend in this movie.
But he's like, come on, man. Hey, you won't return my calls. And then he's like, I've been busy. He's taking pictures of Spider-Man.
Just jumps his ass like right away.
He's like on the verge of tears.
Okay, but that like seeing the switch that he does of like, yeah.
It feels
the way he like on a dive, like it's like he locks in on him, like,
yeah.
I want to talk about this, by the way.
It feels like it's two different takes. Like the first one, Raimi's being like, hey man, like you're in like a John Hughes movie, you're having a good time, this is your buddy, he's hanging out. And then the second one, it's like, by the way, just so you know, you are Inigo Montoya, this man has killed your father.
Yeah.
And like he's just so angry.
Yeah, I was gonna say another note I have is James Franco from 1 to 2, how much bigger he is.
Oh,
like
yeah.
He's like Doritoed out for the second one, and
They
it's
also
like
don't
funny.
dye his hair.
No.
In this one,
He's kind of got that like I'm a movie star now thing
Yeah.
going, which I mean I think they kind of all do at this point.
That's
like
true.
because they've all jumped. Everyone's got a way bigger paycheck, I think, for this one.
oh yeah.
I don't know what the numbers are. I didn't write those down.
It's a lot. I mean, the rumors, again, going back to like would Toby go back or not? There's always, I don't know what the rumor is, what exactly, who knows?
Yeah.
But like,
Well,
I
it's
know
like I remember
salary
there was
one
like
of them.
salary was part of it. I think he actually did have like a back injury.
Yeah.
That also was like, well, he might not be able to just do this at all, like because of he's just hurt. Sort of like Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, like what do you do kind of thing.
Yeah,
The fact that joke later about his back, like that was actually just written before.
Yeah, that it's not intentional.
It's actually like not related at all is pretty funny. But
I will say, going back to this scene of his birthday, and a thing that I think this movie does specifically, Rosemary Harris for me is the beating heart of this movie.
I wrote 3 times Rosemary Harris is GOAT.
I
I wrote that 3
notes
times because I'm busy. I had to watch the movie in a couple parts.
Same.
Just to make sure I had it. But every time I rewatched it, there's like a new Rosemary Harris is bomb. Like she's
so perfect in this. Like her whole like, you know, obviously this is, you know, in the writing as well, but like her wanting to give him the money and all the, you know, her stern kind of like,
oh my god, yeah.
I know that I'm struggling, but I am your, you know, maternal figure. I'm your mom. Like,
yeah,
I'm going to help you, and you are going to take this money.
Yeah,
because you, I think she says you need it more than I do, or something like
Yeah.
that. Which she really is like the. I guess I'll jump ahead a little bit, but like my favorite line in this movie, not line reading, which I still have yet to disclose.
We'll get to that.
But my favorite line is is her whole speech of, you know, I believe there's a hero in all of us, keeps us noble.
What she's talking about, someone had told you to hold on.
That's my favorite part. Is that a hero?
I was watching that scene today. Like I actually like finished it, went back just to watch that scene again.
Yeah, and I think she gets a lot more play in this movie. I mean, she gets involved in the action.
Yeah, she's like got full blown sequences too.
I actually do have a note that says Aunt May constantly throws hands.
She does.
In the first movie, she smacks Norman.
She's not afraid to get her hands dirty.
She smacks Joel McHale.
She does.
And then
I have a note about that. We'll get to that when we get to the scene. But
yes, but I going back to the scene, she already is establishing that she is, I think, the core of the movie. Like whether thematically, you know, or plot wise, you know, Tridia, blah blah blah, whatever. Aunt May is, I think, what really makes this movie tick. Specifically, not to say that she's not good in any other ones, that there aren't other good Aunt Mays. I like all the other Aunt Mays that we've got.
We've never had a bad Aunt May.
I agree.
All the choices. Same with like the Uncle Bens. Like I know we only have the 2, but like they're both incredible choices.
But I think this one specifically, she's so pivotal.
She really is. Well, like the fact that it's like she sort of takes over the Uncle Ben, great power with great responsibility, like just those core values, the way that they raised him, like the reminders, like, and then like I do have a question about, since we're just talking, I didn't know if we were gonna do a whole Rosemary Harris like block of this, but
welcome to the Rosemary Harris show. This is where we talk about how wonderful Rosemary Harris is.
And our guest star for the day is Willem Dafoe. No.
I also like her.
What a wonderful woman.
But you were gonna say
iconic. We had one scene together. I was mostly screaming, but
but what were you gonna say about Rosemary Harris?
What was because this is like always a thing about the thing. Do you think she knows in this movie? Does she figure out like that he's Spider-Man?
I don't think she knows in the beginning, because she has some line where she's like, I mean, maybe you could argue that she does still know, but she she says like, you know, like don't get involved with that Spider-Man guy or something. She's like, I
Yeah.
wish you'd have less of that. I my
Yeah, she's sort of like, I don't like, she's not totally like anti Spider-Man at the beginning of this film, but
Yeah.
she is sort of like,
because in the comics
that's-
sometimes she has like a hey
Yeah.
Spider-Man not a,
she's
she
got
like
some
buys
Facebook
in
opinions, kind of,
sure.
you know, like, look what I've seen. And they're like, that's AI.
This is AI. It's just, how do you know? What do you mean? How do I know?
She's like, I'm going to Google where this is.
But I think after he saves her, I think she knows. It's not. I don't say this as a criticism. I don't think it's super clear.
I don't think it is.
I don't think it really needs to be.
Yeah, I
super
kind of wish
clear.
there was a moment in this series of that, like,
Yeah.
she's like kind of the Robbie Robinson of like, I got you, bitch.
Yeah. By
I know
the
who
way,
you are.
behind this, into this, go ahead.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, she raised this kid. You know what I mean?
Did.
Like,
I can't imagine going through that whole like sequence
yeah.
in the bank, like, and everything, and be like, I know that voice, like.
Yeah, because it does. It certainly seems like in that scene where she's talking, I believe there's a hero in all of us. It really does seem like that specifically she is doing the, hey, by the way,
She kind of does.
I know you're Spider-Man, but I know that.
I know you're not ready to tell me.
Yeah, you're not ready to tell me, but I'm still gonna talk to
She
you.
really got that
about
like Mama on Christmas, like, oh, where did that PlayStation come from? kind of
100%.
attitude about it.
it. Like, I think she learns in this movie. That's my
Okay.
take.
That's what I was gonna say. I think is what's going on
Yeah.
behind the scenes kind of thing. But I was just like curious.
And then we move into the new character additions to this movie.
Yeah.
In a note that I also have that says maybe the most shitty apartment in all of movies.
Oh, it's so perfect.
I'm
though.
sure there's other ones that are there certainly is other ones that are worse. This is on the list.
I know, but
though.
it's like they literally went like, "Hey, remember the apartment from Midnight Cowboy? Like, you
Yeah.
know, where Dustin Hoffman's dying of an STD, like something like that."
It's such a like even like when it starts to shake because the train comes over. Like it's again like constantly like Raimi being like, Peter Parker's life is terrible.
Yeah.
It is constantly terrible.
But at the same time, it's kind of got that like men's apartments look like this, and they see no problem with it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I do have a question about his apartment that we'll get into in just a second. But Mr. Ditkovich, obviously named after the wonderful Steve Ditko.
Yes.
What an inclusion! Like
such a good like the first movie is already stacked with such a great ensemble. Like you kind of think like, how do you like why like adding characters could mess with the balance of that, and yet here it's like, no, we've just got more comedy gold.
well, yeah, because it's like, you know, Jameson in the first one is the like comedic relief that pops in every 35 minutes and steals a scene and then goes away. And, you know, they make the decision, like we said, to expand their roles in this movie. And then they decide that, you know what, we're just going to throw in a new character to occupy basically what Jameson did in the first one.
Yeah.
And
It's almost like he's like the Green Arrow to Simmons, like as like Batman. Like,
Sure,
you know, it's like
yeah, yeah.
he's in here just so we don't wear out the magic of this.
well, like all that, I have ears like a cat and eyes like a rodent, and then he like hisses at him. It's so good. Like it's I mean, like off the bat, they're already again like nailing these one-liners of like, "Hi, what's high? Can I spend it?" Like all that stuff. Like,
What was it like? If promises were crackers, my daughter would be fat.
yeah, he's like playing poker,
What the hell, man?
and like she's trying to like keep up, and like I think like the pan lights on fire. It becomes. I don't remember if we mentioned this the first one, but Raimi has said time and time again he's a big Three Stooges fan.
Yes.
Which I think goes into his like obviously the physicality of Bruce Campbell in the Evil Dead movies.
Yeah.
I think it certainly helps him here with working with a character like Spider-Man, but all that like very broad like over the top comedy stuff.
Yeah.
He's just so on the pulse for.
Yeah,
and
that
it
moment where
always lands.
he like goes to the bathroom all tired and knocks on the door, and then like the dude just comes in and just walks right
walks
past him, like
in.
he's not standing there waiting, and then he like closes the door and then he opens it. Rent?
Yeah, it's the next morning, and he's like, "Did you get it? By the way,
By the way, do you have it now?
in the 8 hours since I've seen
it's
you,
been 8 hours.
yeah, you should have it."
You should have it.
He should
In my
have
day, I hustled. Like
He's like, Peter, all I've got is this 20 to get to the rest of the week. He just boom picks it right out of his hand.
Just plucks it like a vulture
Doesn't even hesitate.
or a falcon, maybe. I guess vultures are.
That's true. Well, ears like a cat, eyes like a rodent. He's got his own superpower thing
He
going
does.
on.
Yeah.
He has a great moment in the third one that I can't wait to talk about. Again, like the apartment is like this perfect like period or like cherry at the top
Yeah.
of the sundae of like
of his misery.
Of his misery.
Yeah.
Like I would say you could maybe make the argument that then the next part where he misses the show is really where it kind of lands.
Yeah.
But this idea that like the day is done, but he's just walking into just
More like
more
it just follows him. The adult problems.
Yeah, and it goes into when I think it's right after this when he's getting ready for the show, and it's such a simple shot, but having the hangers of his suit for the play and the Spider-Man suit.
He's got two things in his closet.
Yeah,
a suit and a Spidey suit.
Peter has two clothes.
He's got two suits.
It's for He has two suits for thematic purposes.
I always think how funny the suit looks on a hanger.
Yeah, it does look really silly.
Like it's funny too because like sometimes he hangs it, sometimes he's in like a chest.
Yeah, it's funny how like wrinkled it is.
Yeah, it's like homie needs to get a steamer out.
Yeah,
like before he goes save someone. Like,
but like going into that thing that it's like. Again, like
yeah, it's like literally like a napkin, like on the hanger.
Well, I also love because it's
all
like
shriveled looking.
It's like Raimi being like, just so you know, in case you don't already know what this movie's about.
Yeah.
Here's a shot that spells it out.
Yeah.
Like word for word.
Yeah.
And it is really effective, obviously.
Yeah.
But
Here's the crappy light bulb and a crappy closet, two suits. That's it.
Toby does like a little exhale too. He's kind of like just that little like look at everything.
That's good.
I also a question that has been asked by people outside of just myself. Do you also think it's kind of pretty weird that Peter has a photo booth picture of just MJ on his mirror?
What do you think the story there is? Do you think she sends it out like missing everyone? Do you think it was like kind of like a Christmas card situation?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it has to have been some kind of gift, but it's not even like. That's the thing. Like, if it was
I have a theory that I just popped in my head.
What do you think?
You say what you say.
Well, because if it was like a like it doesn't look like she's like taken a photo booth thing and like made it a Christmas card or whatever. Yeah. It's just like looks like it like just came out of the printer. Yeah. And she was like, "That's for you." He just took it home and it sticks on his mirror all day.
Yeah. Remember when you rejected me?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I was gonna say I would think it'd be really funny if like the story, because like in the comics, because they don't really do a lot of this in the movies, but Aunt May in the comics has a relationship to MJ's mother. Like they hang out all the time. Like the whole gag is like, let me set you up with the Watson's daughter.
Yeah,
like, and they're like,
really
she's
nice
got a wonderful personality,
yeah.
And he's like, we know what that's code for, Aunt May. Don't say that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I don't want to meet her. Like, I don't want to know who this wonderful personality is.
Not interested.
And then you know she finally shows up, and it's like, oh, it's a supermodel from Planet Babe. But like,
she's like
and she's got your number. Like
yeah, it's
game over.
But
like. I think it'd be funny if like the story was something of like the aunt was like, oh, I've got some like extra photos here. You have this, like some kind of kooky old lady kind of thing of like, you should have photos of my daughter.
It's just so, and it's not like, I'm not like looking for an explanation.
Yeah.
But every time I see it, it just gets like 3% weirder. Just a little bit. I'm always
like, it's not like her and Harry, like, and the three of them all hanging out, like, it's something,
that
it's
would
like,
make
it's
sense.
Just her.
If she was like framed in the center and they were on either side, also would be like, a little, not for this movie, but for 1 and 3, certainly like kind of like a metaphor for what the relationship is. Like even in the set decoration, there's like a moment where we see the other side of the room and he has like a collection of framed photographs. And one of them is her on the field trip.
Yeah.
But then, so I'm like
which that would have been a really great. Obviously he has the photo. We remember when he took it.
That's we could just use funny that.
Scene. Like,
I just don't understand why there's this, because she's also like doing the like, this is just gonna work for the video version of this podcast, but she's doing the like eyes hiding the, like she's like using her hands to hide the eyes.
Aren't
and she's
I
like,
adorable?
Yeah, like making goofy faces. And I'm like,
I'm the girl next door. That's my title.
Like, why are you going into a photo booth by yourself to do that?
You don't do that?
Well, you know what? It's been a while.
I was just doing that yesterday,
That's true.
I was at Dave & Buster's,
That's true.
playing skee ball by myself like I did.
Fair enough. You play a little bit of skee ball, do the photo booth solely by yourself, have like a steak at Dave & Buster's, as we all,
You think I can afford a steak at Dave & Buster's?
Hey, look, if you're looking for a high quality steak in an arcade environment, go no further than Dave & Buster's.
Nice.
Yeah, I just think that's weird.
Yeah,
I want to call that out.
Funny. No, I noticed that this time too. I have a note about it. I'm like, solo photo, interesting.
Well, even I think the moment in the, we do the and we'll continue on in a sec, but like the the redo of the scene in the backyards that she, wants to establish to Peter that she's like, by the way, I am seeing somebody.
Yeah.
And
She really throws that in like after she like really tries to see if he's interested again. Like,
yeah, I think he says, "Is it serious or something?" And her response is like, "I like him," like that that she is kind of like so like somewhat nonchalant about the status of her relationship with Jameson's kid.
Yeah.
Or soon to be revealed as Jameson's kid. But
Yeah.
that she is like
My son, the astronaut.
like it is that it's kind of like the stuff with Harry where it's like, Peter, if you would open up and acknowledge, then you could make this work. Like she would want to date, like you guys could be together, but you are constantly getting in your own way, for lack of a better, phrase.
I will say before we move on from that, like you said, the redo of the backyard scene.
Yeah.
I just have a note here that just says, "Oh boy, yeah."
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I forget. I don't remember what prompted it, but like that like moment of like they like have this longing look in their eyes of like, we really want to make this work, and you keep like she's waiting for him to like say it, and he's just like, "Oh boy, yeah." Like
Tobey Maguire is so good at doing the like he is playing the like kind of like cliched nerd from the 60s.
Oh yeah.
And "oh boy, yeah" is a line that I feel like in a different actor, I won't even say like a lesser actor, but just in like a different actor could not work.
No.
But I think he's so perfectly like hokey with it and corny with it.
Yeah.
That it clicks. Like it's like, yes, that is exactly what that kind of guy would say.
Yeah.
Like, "oh boy, yeah" is delivered so earnestly.
Yeah, it's got that like Jimmy Stewart like hot dog kind of thing going.
100%. Like that, like mid-Atlantic kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Going into there's so many moments. I think
So many moments.
we said this off air. Like my notes for this movie is just like, I love this. This is great. This is perfect. So like
it really is.
This isn't the best action sequence of the movie. There are other really, really stellar action sequences, but just the fact that it's just this like that the responsibility of being Spider-Man is just like thrown at him.
It really is.
He's just like on his way doing his thing, and he gets
run over by people. Like
obviously he does the backflip, and then we get the perfect eat your vegetables moment.
That's what my mom was always saying.
I just didn't actually believe her, all that stuff. Like even as a kid, I do remember being like, well, couldn't hurt to try.
You're sitting there as like a kid, and mom's like, "Really, you want to eat some broccoli?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I want to be Spider-Man."
Spider-Man does it.
I really, really want to be Spider-Man.
Yes, I will be doing this because Spider-Man does it.
Yeah.
But
while we're at it, can we also get the Spider-Man mac and cheese shapes?
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Sorry, that was probably really loud in the mic. Sorry. Oh my God, I just got like full blast from the past.
Yeah, my mom wouldn't get it, but fair. It was $1 more.
I think
for
I
no
was
reason
successfully able to like beg to get those because it was like his face, right?
Yeah.
And then it was like, wasn't there like webs?
Yeah, it'd be like webs, a spider symbol, and so it's like his head, I guess, and then spider symbol, and then like generic web. Probably.
Good stuff. Into that.
Good stuff.
Thank you for
reminding you of
That's So Raven to me.
Yeah, I just the merch from this era too. The web shooters, the silly string, and everything. Like I very much.
I just had a full Anton Ego Ratatouille moment.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable. We just caught that on camera.
You really did.
But I think the shot of, and I think I've sent this to you before, but the shot, like we do the camera swinging from above, like we do, but the kind of yes and that we do with it, where the fact that we then go through, the Spider-Man comes into frame and we swing through like a truck, is one of my favorite Spider-Man shots of all time. Every time I see it, I'm like,
that's it. I know we're jumping around a little bit, but like another like great of just his like ability to do crazy crap like that is like when he's fighting Doc Ock on the train, and he like gets like launched, and then he like right through the bridge, and it just like zink, like gets flat like a mouse or something under a door. Like it's just like, wow.
The movement of him, like in terms of like maybe the guy in the suit thing, like there's like Garfield is probably the most notable in terms of being able to like embody it, but just the beats of Peter like reacting to things and jumping around, like going through the bridge and swinging through all that stuff is so good. I love the reveal of the car being caught.
Yeah, that shot is awesome.
Everything going to silent, and then the little, it's like the bum bum bum
And
bum
they all like
thing.
look up, and it's just that shot of
Yeah.
the camera comes around, and it's like police vehicle like webbed up, like
It's
oh.
so many times this movie is like, by the way, this is the greatest thing you've ever seen
I know
in your
this man is
entire
a.
life.
By the way, remember it's not just hero; it is super
Yeah,
hero.
he's the guy.
he's the guy.
He's officially the guy. We've decided. We move from him having to destroy his bike destroyed and him having to stop and be late to the show into
another great cameo.
wonderful. I think they get better with every movie.
They kind of do.
I think the first one may be more.
I think the first
iconic.
one's still probably like the best choice because the other ones are sort of like we're gonna kind of stop the movie to do these. I think a little bit, but like
we'll get into it. But the third one, you're 100% right in that we kind of stopped the movie. The third one is my favorite.
For the record, I'm not mad that we're stopping the movie
Fair.
to do any of this stuff, but it is so like, come on.
I do want to kind of the question about does Aunt May know? I kind of almost asked the question to you. Obviously, in Spider-Man 4, what was going to be Spider-Man 4, we were going to reveal that Bruce Campbell was Mysterio, that was going to be his cameo. And there's a lot of people that point to this scene of it helps maintain the illusion of like, oh, that was always the bit.
Yeah.
Do you think that was in their head that he was Mysterio?
I think. Oh, I don't know if it. I think they got lucked out.
Yeah.
With the way they wrote this scene, I could see Sam Raimi 100% thinking like, one day he'll be Mysterio. When we're ready to do it, I'll do this. And so I could see him planting the seeds for that. But because something about it almost feels like they did make a decision to like, eventually we will like reveal this whole thing and this insane like plan that he has like laid out. And I don't know that like I think you could argue that he suspects that Peter is the guy, but he's got to be like watching him because like he had to know to like buy like a like he's gonna like okay, he's bought a ticket, so now I will be there to block him and taunt him like if he is Mysterio, the mechanics of that are really funny. Like that he would have to do like as a person, like it's kind of insane.
That's kind of I agree. I feel like it is one of those ones where it's like, well, I don't know if it was intentional, but they certainly were like, this will make it seem like it was intentional.
Yeah.
Campbell is fun as the physical manifestation of like Peter Parker, his problems basically. Yeah. That he's like right outside the door.
Literally.
That's always Peter Parker. He's right outside the door. He's ready to see the show, but because of Spider-Man, he
can't.
Yeah.
I think it's funny. This is one thing I have a note on. And this is a good thing for Peter, I guess, but he's a terrible liar. But like whenever they're like, what gives? Like, what is it this time? And like the excuses he comes up with are always like really vague and really like there was a disturbance. But it's like in this one, he literally like was run over by like cops like and was saved by Spider-Man. He could have like dragged his little shitty bike that's all broken over to her at the door and been like, I'm sorry, I missed the show. Yeah. Like I got run over, but he does it. Like the plot doesn't work if he does this, by the way. Like I understand like the mechanics of it, but it's like funny that he actually has like a pretty good excuse to tell her. True. And he doesn't say that. He just goes like, well, she already like, I'm already like losing this fight, like I guess.
Well, even like going for it when he's on the phone with her. Also, note I love that the MJ billboard is like constantly around him. That he's like constantly having to stare at her. But when he calls her, that he like wants to focus on the usher as the problem, and it just again like it's just such a clear excuse. And then he gets his little internal monologue moment when the call hangs up, and he gets to acknowledge the fact that he's Spider-Man and this is why.
Yeah, the thing he wants to tell her.
Yeah, and it's it's that great. It's again very classic Hollywood kind of a thing for him to just, kind of Stella.
It really is like a Jimmy Stewart level monologue of like, I'm a boy and you're a girl and I just want to make this work kind of thing. Like,
what if we rode off into the sunset? All that stuff.
I was like, what do you want? The moon? I'll bring you the moon.
Yeah, 100%. And then we move from that into the wonderful introduction of Alfred Molina as Dr. Otto Octavius. Again, I think honestly, I think just as iconic. Like he maybe is not doing as like, he's not doing, like a voice, like how Norman does with the Goblin, but he is so perfect in this movie.
He really is.
I love his whole, his initial standoffish kind of state
Yeah,
with
that he's
Peter.
just like, I don't have time for little nerds and fanboys. Like, I'm doing some real science shit over here.
He's like, thank you. And, that he recognizes him. And he's like, oh, yeah, I know Connors. Yeah. He says, you're really smart, but you're also like a slacker.
Yeah. Which, real quick, on Connors, something I remembered from the first movie that we did not get to talk about. In the first movie, right before Norman, there is a bit where he's like, oh, yeah, Connors fired me. Like, he was doing like an internship or something for Connors, or like maybe like office aide or something like that. But like, he lost that job and still is being given like extensions on papers. Like, just another shout out to Connors for being like a really like, I want my students to succeed
like,
kind of
I
thing.
Can
like,
tell that you're smart, but like, why do you keep messing this up?
Yeah, could you just do the homework, please? Like, you're killing me over here, man. But yeah, I just think that's like really funny, because it's like obviously in the first movie it's just a throwaway line of like to get people excited, but then in the second movie they're like actually doing the character.
Yeah.
But it's like thinking about that, like he had a job, lost it, is still taking classes, is still allowed to take classes.
Yeah.
Is getting extensions. Like, just shout out to that teacher.
Yeah, and what's great about this introduction with Otto, obviously it's important for us to see Otto, like Norman or whoever. It's important to see them before the change, to know who they are and all this other stuff. But
his
also
relationship to the wife.
Yes, to Rosie and everything. But I think getting to see Peter isolated from Spider-Man. This is like the first moment in the movie where he doesn't have to like run off somewhere.
You can kind of see the other side of like what life could be like if he could just lock in.
Yeah,
to the Peter Parker part.
The second we stop, like Ock references his history of Spider-Man that he doesn't know about. If he says you're lazy, and when he just gets to talk to Peter, he says he loves him. He's like, you should come to my thing. Like, he's like, Peter could have. I am not arguing that Peter should not be Spider-Man, but I do think it's important that the movie is showing, Peter is worthy of all this stuff.
Yeah,
like, he is able to do all this stuff.
He should have it all, but the balance of it is really hard.
It's the cost is the struggle and stuff like that. And
this
obviously
is my power. This is my curse.
Yeah. And I just think that's such a fun thing to, not only again are we setting up Ock and setting up the kind of dramatic reason for his breakdown and all that, and we get
shout out to I believe it's Donna Murphy is it Rosie?
As Rosie.
Yeah, Rosie. So good. For those of you who don't know, she is a prolific Broadway actress, and she's also the voice of Mother Gothel in
Is
Tangled.
she really?
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't
her.
know that.
Yeah, that's her.
Oh, she's great.
No, she's great. I've seen a handful of like taped filmed things with her, and she's
going into like
genius. Like, honestly, it's like, it sucks that she's only in the movie for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, actually, but like another great like choice of like actress to like be dropped into this
part
series.
of what makes this world and these movies so like consistently stellar is, like we talked about with like Octavia Spencer, and like Joel McHale is in this movie, and like
Joel
has a big
McHale.
part that like there's all these like very like Daniel Day Kim is in this movie.
Daniel Day Kim, the greatest chin,
he has like
honestly,
a line.
dude, sharpest chin ever.
Oh, he's a beautiful man.
Not to like sidetrack. I got to see at the Forum. Was it the Forum? No, it wasn't the Forum. I forgot where it was. Mark Taper, the Mark Taper Theater in LA. They did Peter Pan Goes Wrong, and they always have like a guest celebrity who kind of does the storybook narration for the show. And the one I got to see was Daniel Day Kim.
Sweet.
And I was near the back, and I swear to God, I could cut myself on his chin from that distance.
Yeah, he's stunning.
That jaw is impeccable. Like,
he like turns around,
almost giving Bruce Campbell a run for his money. Like,
true.
A real like Crimson Chin, Nega Chin kind of.
He comes in letting us know that we have a sustainable fusion reaction, and I'm like, yeah, can we hold the camera on him some more? Like, love Daniel Day Kim.
Honestly, I'm like, can we backdoor Mr. Negative? Like,
I would love, but again, like a testament to these movies is that we're constantly getting these like wonderful actors showing up for like one scene bits.
Yeah, what's actually like getting to this idea of like
steal the show.
Like, because we didn't get to do it last time, and maybe we'll have time. Maybe not this one, but maybe at the third one we'll have time to do it. But this, who would have played the other characters had the franchise just kept this continuity?
Sure.
You already have so many like great background actors that just are dropped in with no names.
Yeah.
Like, you could do a Mr. Negative. Like, you could turn Joe McHale into some other, like, he could be the Shocker. Like,
Joe Manganiello as Agent Venom.
Agent Venom.
Cool.
Like, there's like weirdly, and then
time,
like again, you also have like Octavia Spencer is in the first one. Like, there's really a villain that could do that, but like,
yeah, but
there's a lot of like great things that have just happened.
I mean, the eye for talent, I think, is also part of that thing with Raimi. He's so good at like picking these people that we get down to these bit players, and they're actors that have no disrespect to any actor, but like it's just crazy to see these actors at this earlier period in their career.
Yeah, just working actors, literally day players.
Yeah, but
just I'm probably doing a show or I'm auditioning for another thing down the street.
Yeah, and Alfred Molina himself is like a storied, respected character actor.
Broadway. He did Fiddler on the Roof. He did, I think, is it Red? I forget the big play he did.
He's one of those guys that if I know he's in something, I will be going to see it. It does not matter what it is.
Yeah.
I adore him at everything. He's the best. Like,
we don't get enough of him these days, and I'm sure it's because he just does theater. But
yeah, he's doing his thing.
He's doing his thing. He's happy.
But he's so good.
And Alfred, if you're watching this podcast and you hear me, you know, like, just miss seeing you around and things, you know.
Yeah, come on the podcast. Come hang out.
Come hang out.
Wouldn't it be crazy if we had storied character actor Alfred Molina talking about?
I know, it'd be like Corridor Digital
Scooby-Doo.
There watching it. I think we get Scooby-Doo on the podcast.
That would be great. You think he likes Scrappy?
No,
I
don't think they got along. I think it's a real Dwayne Johnson, Vin Diesel
that they have a feud.
Yeah. You know, like Scrappy comes on the thing, like, "Hey, Scoob."
Oh my god! Now I'm just imagining Alfred Molina and Scrappy Doo at like they did in Fast and Furious 7, I think, where they're having a dialogue scene and they're at the same height. They're like
the same height,
4 feet away from each other.
Ruby.
That we're doing this like Lord of the Rings camera trick. So that Scrappy and Alfred Molina are having a standoff. I've broken down. This is incredible.
We've gone off the rails now.
But Otto, he's great.
He
sells the hell out of that
Nobel
bad
Prize,
joke.
Otto. Nobel Prize.
James Franco and his early
he really has inherited this like shit-eating grin businessman thing from his dad.
Well, I also love that he's like Harry.
He really is like, I have to honor my father's legacy kind of thing. Like, I have
like
to become him.
CEO,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, and it's like also wild that company would be like, who should take over the company? His son, a man who just graduated college.
Yeah,
like,
which
like, I don't know, was that like inherited when his father like died? Is that like in the will, or do you think the company like
presume
was like, oh, his son? Like, I'm just curious. Not that it matters to the grander scheme of things, but like, I just question like the reality of that for a second. Is like,
of him doing it,
yeah. It's like because like
kind of pulls a Bruce Wayne.
Well, he's like kind of like spends the whole first movie being like, Pete, I don't know what I'm doing in math or science or any of these things, and my father hates me because I'm not a genius like him. And then the second movie, they're just like, yeah, I'm running the company.
Well, I love that. I think it's that we don't talk about it enough, but the fact that like Norman is very clearly a scientist.
Yes,
he's a businessman for sure, but he is a
rare breed indeed. He's somehow both
of them. And Harry is a showman.
Yes,
and I'm not saying successful, but he's very clearly like, he's playing to the back of the house.
Dun. Dun dun.
It is in fact the moment that I've waited for, is when he says, I have nothing left except Spider-Man, and he like Charlie Brown walks away in his like super expensive suit and his silly sunglasses.
He's all like drunk at the thing, like.
Yeah, he's Franco is good.
Are we at the party scene yet? Where are we?
We're at Ock becoming.
We haven't even done
Osborn.
Ock becoming. We should tell
well, that's
time,
what I guess. Like Molina sells that bad joke. Like he really does. Sells it, and I love
that joke. I've had people like be like, "That's a bad joke. It doesn't make sense." I'm like, "That's kind of what makes it funny, though." Like,
yeah, the intention
kind
is
of a
that
nonsense
he's
joke.
Like not really this kind of guy. There is a note with, I think maybe the biggest thing to note that I like is when Otto like first lifts the arms up. We have that big moment, music swells, the arms lift out of their holsters, I guess, for lack of a better word.
They really are like holstered.
The shot that we do of him first controlling them is this. We shoot it the same way as his last when he's drowning the fusion reactor. It's this shot from above, like Hugh Jackman looking up in Les Mis, like kind of a thing. Of him looking up with intent as he's first controlling them. And I just like that little moment of like that we echo that later, that we do a reprise, of his whole "I won't die a monster" and stuff like that. That this is like
awesome.
That this is almost these shots are like the bookends of Dr. Octopus.
I think it's hilarious. And I know this has been some discourse on the internet, but just he's like oh, here's this experiment, renewable energy. This is the
Yeah.
whole thing we're here for. But also, here's this insane other thing I've built that we will spend no time discussing.
In order to do this,
In order to do this, I've also developed a
and
equally impossible thing of AI arms that are screwed into my spine,
it is that wonderful comic
which
book.
I will now attach to me in real time.
Yeah. He's also like, we're doing
There's not even a
nuclear-
harness. This shit just like gets screwed into his spine. Like,
Oh, yeah.
dude just raw dogs that and then goes do some hardcore science.
I love the beat of the
is
little
insane.
needles injecting him and his little like wince.
Yeah.
Like there's just little beats like that are so. Melina again is like, I don't know what part of that is Raimi and what part of that is maybe in the script, but like,
Yeah.
but Melina is so good at like adding in. I have a note that like later that it's like he's like on the same level as Defoe in terms of like talking to himself. It's that like theater
Yeah.
trained Shakespearean thing.
He is like in a similar like pantheon of like Defoe of like he can just sell any
Yeah, he's
line.
just making it sing.
It's like him, Ian McKellen, I think, like is Gandalf. Like they're
Sure.
saying some in the hands of a lesser actor would be like, really?
Well-
Really? That's the line. But it's like they just like are just the conviction.
Yes. Well, even and then, we have this like horrible moment. Obviously, Rosie is killed.
Yes.
Like,
he's always like, I miscalculated. And I know the miscalculation.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's been said out loud. And if it has, then I'll beat this dead horse. Because later he's like, I couldn't have miscalculated.
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
The miscalculation is you've created a sun in an all metal building and
Yeah.
forgot about how gravity works.
maybe creating a sun in the middle of Manhattan is a bad idea.
Yeah, it's like these are objects that have gravity like on their own that suck in and are magnetic. Like
It is.
that he's like, this is the location we will do it, Manhattan,
He's
in an old metal church.
well. What I love about Ock and going into that, I couldn't have miscalculated, and kind of going into this too. It's kind of the like,
It's like you did, bro. It's the
Yeah.
worst location you could have done it in.
well, it's almost
Maybe a
like
desert.
even though Otto is like a nice guy when we first meet him, he is pretty ego driven.
He is.
You know what I mean? And
He was really on his high horse in that first scene. I don't have time for this. And
so you're a kid.
you're
Yeah.
a kid, and oh, you want my autograph kind of attitude. And then, I mean, Harry, weirdly, one of the few moments where he is kind of a cool friend of like, well, who's paying for this? Maybe you have time for my
Yeah.
friends. Like, kind of thing.
Maybe shut up and talk to my buddy.
Maybe talk to him for a couple minutes because,
Yeah.
I still care about this guy.
Yeah, like, and I'm,
Even if he is like talking to Spider-Man.
yeah, even if at a moment's notice, I will look at him with the eyes of a killer.
Actually, here's a question. And this is a motivation. This is more of an actor question, I guess,
Yeah.
for that scene. Do you think the motivation for that moment of like, you should talk to my buddy, do you think it comes from I am a good friend? Or do you think it comes from if I do this, he owes me and he has to tell me where Spider-Man is? Do you think it's a tactic for that? Or do you think it's more of I'm trying to be a good friend here, or maybe a little bit of both?
I certainly don't think that's out of the conversation. I think Harry has shown time and time again that he's a pretty selfish guy.
Yeah.
I also think it's him, again, being a showman. When he says, do you want to meet him? It is at the level of like kind of
Come on,
wanting
this
to
is cool,
show
right?
off. It almost feels like a dad being like, do you want to go to Disneyland? Like he's like,
Yeah,
I
honestly.
can do this. Do you want to do it?
And
Like,
it's
you want to skip
I don't know what
school?
he's going to say, but like, I know you know what he's doing. I got you concert tickets. Like,
Yeah, obviously he likes Peter, but I think he's just so about the ideas. When they are in the room, he's like, "Get you two geniuses together," like like
Nobel
he's,
Prize.
Yeah,
Nobel
like
Prize.
he's again like Ock, like he's just so caught up in himself.
Yeah.
But that's really, I mean, the whole miscalculation. It's like, I don't think he miscalculated as an accident. I think
No.
he just didn't. He's just. It's full hubris. Like it's full
It really
ego
is.
and arrogance. And it costs
Which,
him.
I mean,
everything.
ego, I guess, is a pretty strong theme of this movie of like just the vanity of it all. And like MJ wants to be famous. She's sort of struggling with that.
Yeah.
Not Norman.
Harry.
I almost did Peter too. Harry is also like, I need to prove myself as like being my father's legacy. Ock needs this to work as well. Like,
Yeah.
and then Peter just also just the ego of like, I can't do both. Like trying to do it like.
It's great, and then it's I mean it's brought up again thematically like by our the goat Rosemary Harris.
Yes.
That it's like sometimes we have to give up what we want the most, even our dreams. Like this whole thing of like sometimes you got to be a little selfless,
Yeah.
in that stuff of like
Which is like some sage wisdom, which I haven't rewatched 3 yet, but I feel like that advice it will be very interesting to like reflect on as they go into the third one
3 is going to be certainly an interesting movie to talk about for a number of
for
reasons.
a number of reasons.
It is a movie that has aged better and at the same time still is.
It is exactly what
Has
we
some
thought from the time, and it is
issues, yeah.
also, but it has somehow aged better. It still is the perception of what it was at the time.
Agreed. I will say something that has continued to be golden is Sam Raimi letting everybody know that he is one of the goats of horror.
Yes.
Like going in.
Are we going to the arm sequence?
Oh yeah, baby.
I just have a note. Like he just drops like the most harrowing horror sequence in the middle of this movie that is designed to sell toys to children.
The moment of the woman being dragged and her nails on the ground
through the
like,
stainless steel. Like, oh my god.
That terrified me as a child. It still gets me a little bit
Still
today.
gets me. Yeah. Also, fun Evil Dead with the chainsaw reference. Like,
But I think it's again kind of going into the first movie, something we talked about that. I think what makes horror directors, and in this case Sam Raimi, so effective is that, and he utilizes his horror tools really well in making these villains genuinely threatening. That scene in the hospital is such a perfect like indicator for the audience to be like, by the way, this man is completely gone.
He's not well.
And a note that I noticed when in this watch is when he becomes Doc Ock, he stops using his human arms.
His human arms. Yeah.
He solely relies on his his other appendages at that time, and he rides that out. Excuse me. He rides that out until the whole movie.
Have you seen the bloopers for that scene or the special like guest they had that one day of filming?
Yes.
I know it's gone around the internet a bit.
The wonderful Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe was just nearby and was like, "Can I pay a visit?"
It's so good. Also, in that, for those who haven't seen it, you should watch it because Dafoe also then shows up and he's just obviously doing it as a bit, but it's also like, damn, he's killing it too.
I mean, you're like he's having fun right now, but he's crushing it in this like gag. But for those of you who haven't seen it, I guess Dafoe was nearby filming something else, or maybe he was just in the neighborhood, friendly neighborhood. And he basically went on set and they strapped him to the arms for the demonstration sequence of the sun and everything. And they didn't tell Alfred Molina, but they were like, "Hey, we want you to see what the double's doing, so you get an idea of like the double's actually kind of onto something. Like we need you to see this and try to emulate some of that." And then he came on set to find Willem Dafoe strapped into the arms, being like, "Yes!" And he's like doing all the lines. Like I think they had cue cards.
Goggles on.
He has the goggles on.
Like puts them on,
and he's like giving like his his goblin like performance of like, "Yes, it's just it's to stabilize." Like it's so really funny to look at, and I'm just like.
Yeah, but he's so again at talking to himself, at doing all the physicality. We go from this into the bank with Joel McHale.
At least we get the toaster. Sorry, sweetheart.
God, just playing just
Joel McHale, pretty great in the scene, is just kind of being a tool.
A compliment. Joel McHale playing the perfect asshole at a bank. The like 300 or more. The way he says that, he's so just the biting.
Way he's like, actually. I like just the disregard for humanity. Like,
well, so like while watching this, my girlfriend Laura was in the room watching me watch it, kind of going around the house. And when he's doing that, she at one point Laura was like, "Don't be mean to her." Like she started to stand up for
How dare you? Yeah,
because that guy's.
I was gonna say, what do you think the motivation is of her kicking him in that moment? Because it's like Peter says something, and I feel like the joke would be that like, "Shut up!" I'm trying to play a thing. But the way she like kicks him, he's like out, and then it cuts to her like just like locked eyes with him. I'm like, she kicked that man on purpose. That was not a mistake.
I think ultimately like a big lesson for this movie, for this whole series is don't fuck with Aunt May.
Do not fuck with Aunt May.
She's not afraid.
She will throw hands
to like let you know who's in charge.
Yeah, like just in the middle of that fight where she's just like, "Shame on you," and just like bats him with the umbrella.
Again, Joel McHale tries to steal a single gold coin. A very funny. I love that they're gold coins. But she just like smacks it out of his hand. Like, that it's like that kind of like broad kind of classical thing where it's like Ox robbing a bank and it's not bags of money. It's like literally like
gold coins,
bags of gold coins with like the dollar sign painted on them and stuff. And
it's like, put your hands up, and I'm waiting for the like, which one?
Yeah. Well, honestly, what I love about the choice of the gold coins too is anytime they hit like a wall, like when he like throws them as like a way to get Spider-Man, the way like the sound design, the way they like pop and explode, they look so cool. Like it's such a better choice than just like just to
Just
have
like
some
money,
money,
yeah.
you know. And obviously, yeah, you get the moment of the coin rolling right up to Joel McHale.
Yeah.
He's again, shout out to Joel McHale. You know, Peter, Aunt May saying, "Peter, don't leave me." He runs away, and Joel McHale's like, "That boy of yours is a real hero." Like, just to be like, there's a
What a
weird
dick.
robot
You
man
don't have
like
to say that
robbing
at
the
all.
bank, and I'm gonna like throw some shots
Yeah.
at this kid.
Also, the shot of the way Toby like spins in his chair and pushes Aunt May out of the way with his feet is so cool. I
Agreed.
think about that all the time, and especially while rewatching it, the way he's just like, wham, whoosh.
Toby's
so sick.
doing a lot of like great leading man. So I feel like, you know, this is no disrespect. I love like Tom, Andrew, like other. I think No Way Home does a great job of reminding us that like all Spider-Men are great.
Yeah.
And like that it's not a contest, you know. But I think Toby did get some, and I'm guilty of this too, some like, you know, oh, he's not a good Spider-Man, blah, 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 blah. He's a good nerd, all this other stuff. But like, he's constantly delivering in all of these movies. He's so
really
good.
does.
Like,
I used to take it for granted, I think, as a kid.
Agreed.
Because I always thought like he sounded really nerdy when he was in the Spider-Man suit, and I always kind
Sure.
of hated his Spider-Man voice. But now I'm like, I look back at it with like such like love and like aw,
Yeah.
like Toby.
well, it is kind of like he is the least quippy to say something that's been said 1,000 times. But like when he does have that moment where, you know, Ock has his arms around, you know, Peter's head, and he says, "You're starting to get on my nerves," and Spider-Man says, "I have a knack for that." It's stuff
Yeah.
like that where I'm like, yeah, when you get to do this,
When he gets to do it, he's good.
you're doing it.
It
Like you're
works.
doing a good job. It's very
I'm the sheriff in these towns.
yeah, it's very classic Spider-Man. It feels almost like the 60s animated show, like
does.
that delivery. Yeah, I just think it's so great. I think, again, throwing Aunt May in the action, like
Really cool.
I think
keeps
Rosemary-
the stakes really high.
yes. I also love, it's not like, I don't think the movie's missing out by not playing with this, but I love the moments of him calling out to Aunt May, but doing it in a way that he can't be like,
Yeah.
hey, woman who has raised me my entire life, I'm coming.
Yeah.
And yeah, Aunt May's shame on you
Yeah.
and smack, like
She gets a good whack on him in that. Like,
Aunt May is,
I know she's a New Yorker, but like,
Yeah,
damn, like,
damn right she is. She is not afraid. Like
if that's what the old ladies are like in that town, I'd hate to see of like who everyone like imagined in the first movie, like Peter had to beat with the stick to get those
Yeah, to
cranberries.
get the
Like,
cranberries.
I imagine it's got to be someone of an Aunt May level of like toughness.
well, like even the moment when she's like dangling and she like, you know, discovers that there's like a ledge, like,
Great little visual
inches
gag
from
of
her.
like, oh, okay, still scary, but like,
Again, we're taking all these people that like we really got attached to and really love and really like, you know, we're just letting them sing even more.
Yeah.
Which I think is so much fun. And I think she, even in the like this part of the swinging stunts, like she's actually doing it.
yeah,
That she was like, no, I want to do it. Like she's
Yeah.
like, how often do you get to swing with Spider-Man? I'm gonna do it.
that whole fight sequence is fantastic. I love. It's a shot I'm obsessed with, but it's when they like fall off, where they break the clock and he falls off with like the pieces of the
Yeah.
like hour hand or whatever, and he like webs it and then like slingshots it back
So
into
cool.
So sick. If we are gonna get a Hugh Jackman Toby team up in a Secret War style adventure, I would love to see that exact same shot, but with Wolverine as the clock piece.
Look,
That idea is out there. Like, just do
I'm
it.
into it.
I
I second
just need to
this.
see it.
Yes. I mean, they're almost certainly going to be in
Yeah.
Secret Wars. So,
I will also settle for a Incredible Hulk throwing
sure.
Hugh Jackman.
We're going to get some kind of, people are going to,
Like, you remember the Incredibles where she's like, Bob, throw me.
oh yeah.
Just
I want to see Hugh Jackman. I
Like
mean,
a
they do
dart?
a little bit in the Fox ones, but yeah, just Hugh Jackman just being fired
Yeah,
like
like
a bullet.
like cannonball.
Just- yeah. I think it's the next scene is when Peter goes to talk to MJ again, and
Is it?
it's the like she says I'm getting married in a church. Like he's talking about. Or wait, no,
Wait,
the next scene I think
is it the like gala thing?
it's the gala.
The,
Yes,
the
my
gala scene
mistake.
where everyone happens to be at the gala. Everyone important to Peter Parker also is invited
Yes, because
for
it's
very different reasons.
yeah, and I think MJ has a moment. I think it's in this moment where she sees him, and she says, "Oh, you," like she goes, "Oh, you," like that.
She's like, "Crap, you're here."
She's like-
I love the reason Peter's at the party though. Of like it's like, "Hello, Peter, you're fired." And then they're like, "Actually, we need a photographer." He's like, "Oh, you're unfired. Come back here."
Yes, and
He's like, he's like, "My high society photographer took a polo ball to the head.
it's
You're all I got."
getting again each scene almost feels like this is the breaking point for Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And this one we have a little bit even more fun with it, where like he's like constantly reaching for drinks and like they're all empty, or like he misses them. Harry has another moment where he's like, you know what? I actually fucking hate Peter Parker.
He's like, you know what? You're a shitty friend. And then he just starts slapping him. The disrespect in that scene is so like awful.
He slaps him, and then
so gross to watch.
The next moment is Jameson's son saying, MJ has just agreed to marry me.
Yeah, it's just like one thing after another. It's like, wow.
And Jonah telling him to take the photo
like,
of their engagement.
Take a photo. Like, my son's getting married now. And he's like, like, I don't know how he didn't throw up at the end of that scene.
Yeah. And then he goes, obviously, Ock at one point says, you know, if you want a woman to love you, read her poetry. Mm-hmm. And I think it's right after that when
T.S. Eliot.
Yeah, when he's quoting like, you know, day by day, all that stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of that stuff, I did write a note that the hamminess of the franchise gets kicked up like by 600% just in the 100%. Second movie.
Well, my favorite moment is MJ almost reacting to the hamminess when he says the poetry, because he quotes it, the day by day thing. Yeah. And her immediate response is whatever that means. Like, she's just like,
what are you doing?
Which again, when you look at the movie
from her perspective and like how toxic Peter seemingly is, it's like that is like a wild thing. Like that's like a red flag story. Like like that would be like on a radio show you would tell that story and be like, and then he starts quoting poetry at me.
Like John Jameson is, you know. And this is no disrespect for the actor. I think he's doing a good job doing this.
He really does.
He's intentionally being like the blandest man you've ever seen in your life.
The blandest man, but also like a actually seemingly good option for her. Like all things considered, he is stable. He has a career.
Yeah, it's like, look, if
he doesn't play games with her.
Again, it's that thing where she's like, listen, like I said that I was open to doing this and you turned me down. I moved on. Like she's like, I like, you can read poetry, say you're not an empty seat, whatever. Like,
yeah, but it's like I put my heart out on the line,
which
several times, like and you have rejected me both times. You can't come back now.
Well, the reason
that's
that
rude.
I was bringing up the married at church thing the reason that I love it, I've heard some people be like, I don't understand why she says I'm getting married at a church at the end of that. Because when they're talking, he is saying, I always imagined you, you know, getting married on a hilltop with the sun setting. He kind of pillies this whole thing. And he's like giving basically his expectations and his dreams and what he thinks.
Yeah, because I imagine he's the guy in that scenario.
100%. And what I love about the I'm getting married in a church moment is that she's basically saying to him, like, or at least what I perceive is her saying, like, hey, your expectations are not what's going to happen. Like, this is not the reality. And
you have to come back to Earth.
That. Yeah.
Like, I'm getting married to an astronaut, and he's, like, more on Earth than you.
Yeah, like, that she's like, this is happening. I'm getting married in a church. Like, you can say that you're doing all these things and blah, 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 blah. And
which I have a note about the getting married in a church thing for the climax, but I want to save it till we're in that pocket of stories. So I'm just going to put that out there.
And it's that moment where, you know, like, after that is, you know, I think we get a brief moment earlier in the movie where he's suffering with his powers, and we've kind of talked about this, that it is that thing of like, at this point, Spider-Man has caught up to him, and like the whole Spider-Man No More segment where he decides that he's not going to do it is like this like perfect midpoint in the movie.
It's perfect midpoint, and it's like a brutal scene. And I like that they bring Uncle Ben back for like a dream sequence.
Agree.
More metaphorical, I think, you know, but like
well, I mean, we're even doing the like blown out white back, like it's basically heaven.
Yeah, like he's come back to do the thing, and he's like, I'm Spider-Man.
He's like Ben Kenobi,
it really is, like, isn't he?
But it is
Uncle Ben Kenobi.
That because it's not even him. It's just Peter being like, I can't do this.
It's just fair.
It's not
like
me.
It is like ruining his life. Like,
well, obviously he goes to the doctor and interacts with the doctor he's like the coolest doctor in the world. He's like, I have a tie-dye shirt and a lab coats, just so you know, like, I'm keeping it real.
I'm a doctor of this generation.
Yeah,
I'm a man of the people.
And you know, he's doing it's
another great day player in that.
Agree.
Another great day player after Spidey's power stopped working and he falls.
Oh, the elevator.
The elevator scene. We can't not talk about the elevator scene.
That is true. With Mr. 2004. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what his name is?
Oh, I don't know what he is. He's just the most 2004 looking man I've ever seen in my entire life.
Shout out to Mr. 2004. We'll put his name on the screen.
Yes,
for
respect.
People at home. And if you're driving to work, listening to this in the car, tough.
Yeah, you have to look it up. I can't look it up right now. I'm sorry, but it's in the video version.
Yes.
But
no, you're great guys. Like, cool Spidey suit.
I made it. Like, oh,
Just that whole like the small talk of it all. Like another scene, like we don't have to do a moment like this, but so funny.
it's also a great,
So funny.
no pun intended, but the button for the scene is that they finish their talking and Mr. 2004 hits the button on the elevator
goes,
that like the elevator hasn't been moving this
Yeah.
whole time, which I think is funny.
They're just sitting there, and just the like, because he's like, what is it? He's like, yeah, and it rides up in the crotch area a little bit, and the guy's just like,
Okay, I guess we're done. Yeah. He hits the
elevator button.
Yeah.
Such a great scene.
But yeah, like these wonderful people, and the way that doctor, when he's talking to him, he's like, maybe you don't have to be Spider-Man crawling up those walls. Like he
It's like,
nails
my
the
friend,
delivery
remember, is the one having this
this.
dream.
He's
That's
like,
why I
"Pardon
came to
me."
a doctor, because I'm really worried about my friend.
About my friend.
The doctor's like, cool, man. Yeah, I don't care.
Well, I just love that the doctor's like, have you ever thought about like not being Spider-Man in your dream?
Yeah,
Asterisk?
it's like this seems like the thing stresses you. It's like just work-life balance, I guess.
Maybe just
you
don't do it.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Just, sounds like stupid advice, but it's actually, if you have too much on your plate, maybe do less.
It reaches a point where, he's, doing the whole like, am I not supposed to have what I want, what I need, all that stuff.
Yeah, when he's got his like, he's looking out the window and he's just saying,
Yeah, he's doing that full
out loud.
Shakespearean like call to,
I love it.
aside.
I remember having a phase like when I was like 14 to like 20 of hating that scene. Because I just thought it was so cheesy and so stupid. And now that I'm an adult and I understand camp and I understand all the like intent in that, I'm like, how freaking hilarious and amazing is that monologue?
Well, even
Am I not supposed to have what I need? Like, it's just no subtext. Like, these aren't even thoughts in his head. Like we can't gather that from like the rest of the sequence.
Totally.
But he's just saying it out loud to himself.
Well, even talking about like the camp
So
and
melodramatic. I love
how
it.
perfect it is. The raindrops keep falling on my head sequence is so like, I know that the whole story is that song was like a temp track and they just thought that it was really good.
It's too funny to not use.
It's too funny because also it makes Peter is not like he's not like solving his life in that montage.
No.
He's like fixing a bike wheel. He's like getting a hot dog and like answering a question in class. Like they're such like regular things to be doing. But that song, it's like, this is like he's never
actually
felt
living
more
for the
free.
first time in a long time. Like,
Yeah, and it's completely, unremarkable kind of stuff that he's doing.
Yeah.
And obviously then it leads in the great moment where he's at the play.
yeah.
And we have the wonderful stage manager. Shout out to any and all stage manager, but having to do the like, I am glad. I am glad. Like,
Come on, bitch. We're doing a show.
Yeah, I think that's what I love about that sequence. What makes it so much has continued to age better for me is the fact that it's just like Peter is just happy that he's just like getting to do stuff.
He is, yeah.
Really
funny sequence. Also, I think I'd have to double check, so I could be wrong. So don't get mad at me if this didn't happen.
I'm really gonna try not to. But
Okay, thank you. And this goes for the people at the internet. Don't get on me. I'm paraphrasing / just what I remember. But if I'm correct in this, when he's fixing the bicycle and the wheel just comes right off.
Yeah,
It was not supposed to happen.
Oh, if
That
that's
genuinely,
true.
I think they wrote it in like after. I think they shot like an additional of it like going
Sure.
out the window because I thought it was funny. But I think initially he was supposed to spin it and it was supposed to work, but then it like went woo, out the window and it was just like, I think his reaction was probably so genuine that they were like, well, we're keeping that. Like, that's too funny that he's like so Peter Parker. It's such a good Peter Parker moment
It
of
is.
like, I fixed the wheel. Well, okay, I didn't fix the wheel, but we
Yeah.
were close.
But it's that thing of like, it's not like successful, but he has the time to do it.
Yeah,
is
he has the
kind of
time to figure it out,
Yeah,
And then from there, I think it goes into him saving a kid in the burning building. Is that
I was gonna
next?
say, I think it's the burning building, which
Or
is,
I guess he goes to the play and he has another. Now that I'm
yes,
retired
that's where
from
the
Spider-Man.
married in the church thing is.
Yeah, the married in the church thing.
Because he says, "I'm not an empty seat.
Yeah,
Punch
'cause-
me,
yeah.
I bleed." All
Yeah,
that
and then
stuff.
she's like, whatever that means.
Yeah, she's like, you're just like
Totally fair.
shouting phrases at me.
I know. God, that is so. These movies are really hilarious when you look at it from her perspective. Like the poor thing. It's just the psychological damage of being in this relationship is.
Yeah. Again, Dunst is like so great, but it is that thing, like you said, like MJ just kind of becomes like. She just kind of sits around being just the love interest.
Yeah, she's kind of just waiting for someone to tell her.
And then
they
she
love
gets
her.
captured, and it is that
Yeah.
thing. Like by this time, I'm not it's, you know, like I'm like, okay, we've done this again. And then when we get into the third movie, I'm like, were you really doing this again?
It gets really
like,
bad in the third movie, I think.
but
But I think in the context of the second one of Peter's like arc and journey and trying to like move on and or trying to decide if he wants to keep doing this,
yeah,
it all tracks, you know.
yeah. I like the idea that the whole series is like ultimately about Peter, like Peter and MJ is kind of the like the center of Peter's
she's
dramatic.
kind of the selfish choice for him. Like to be with her is inherently selfish and like
yeah, or
coupled
with
the great power comes great responsibility. It like really like
or it's even though like how am I to if I was to be with her, how would it be?
yeah,
How would it work? All this other stuff that initially he just denies it, you know, like or like in the first movie he doesn't think that they could like she would want to be with him, and then she learns that he does. This movie is about like denying that connection, and then the third one is like how do you balance it now that the secret's out? But like it unfortunately Kirsten Dunst is just kind of she is unfortunately kind of stuck playing the love interest, which she just in the sense that she just doesn't get a whole lot to do other than just talk about whatever relationship she is in or may not become a part of. But yeah, we go from there. I mean, I have a note here with kind of a general with the movie. It just says Doc Ock's arms constantly impress me. Like the puppeteering, all this other stuff. Like it's always like so cool. The fact that it like gets to do more. It like you know holds a cigar. I think at one point.
Well, they're also like they're like henchmen. The arms. They're like
a little bit.
And
they
they
all
make
have their own
sounds like they're like
personality.
animals that like
the weasels in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. we start to go into now that we had the initial part of the movie of how being Spider-Man is fucking up Peter's life, and then the next beat is how not being Spider-Man is helping Peter's life.
But only so far because you know he shot a shot again and it's kind of too late.
Sure, like the consequences
and it's like,
are
well,
already...
then what am I giving? Well, why am I stopping being Spider-Man if not to be with her? Like I've already lost her. Like, and the world needs Spider-Man. Like all that stuff starts to come back.
I think this part, this next part is, you know, that if the first part is what Peter is gaining as Peter Parker, it's the next part is what the world is losing in losing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I even have a note. One of the, I mean, this is again so like kind of campy and silly, but one of the headlines it just says crime up 75%.
Wild.
Unbelievable number.
What is the mayor of New York doing? Because presumably, if we're assuming this is like New York in 2002, it's what is it, Rudy Giuliani?
Oh no.
We'll keep politics out.
Oh, Rudy Giuliani. But also kind of a Spider-Man villain. Just it is. I'm just gonna say Giuliani's so strange and weird. He's got hair dye dripping down the side of his face.
Oh God.
Anyways, but
anyway, we don't have to talk about the politics of New York and America.
I think
because this is a fantastical. It's not really a real New York.
Hopefully for their sakes.
Well, actually, don't they? I think we meet
Rudy
the mayor.
Giuliani
it's not Rudy Giuliani. Isn't it like take a picture of the mayor and his girlfriend?
That's right, wife. Yeah, all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not.
The burning building is again the mirror image, you know, mirror up to nature or whatever of the first movie. Having the burning building being a showcase of can Peter save people in the same way he could save people as Spider-Man? You know, like the fact that, you know, he is able, like presumably, right? He doesn't not have his powers. He's never like actually drained. It's just that he does not
like subconsciously turned off.
It's like a confidence thing. Like he doesn't have. He's exhausted and he doesn't want to, and so his body is kind of just telling. It's like suppressing it.
Yeah, it's like suppressing it, which is interesting. It is a very interesting thing in this movie, and it's a crazy like how good it is, and that's not like a criticism. That it's like, why does his powers turn off? And it's like, well, he's just depressed. Like,
yeah, I think when I was,
and it's like you take that as a metaphor at face value. It's like. Interesting, like that it isn't like a Superman situation of like a crystal and a device where we have to spend a whole sequence.
It has to be
sucking the Superman out of
or
you,
something. You know, yeah, like it has to be. We have to like over explain.
Yeah,
I think when I was younger, I thought that was like a flaw of the movie that like we didn't explain it, but we do. Like, it's just.
But it's kind of like complaining about the spider in the first movie. It bites him, gives him powers, and it's like how, and it's like not important.
Not important.
This is a father-son movie.
And I think the burning building, the fact that it is like I was talking to I'll continue to talk about stories of me talking to my girlfriend about this. Like, she was like, well, I don't understand like why he is like why the burning building is such a thing, because she hadn't seen the first one. And I was like, the fact that he has the time to go back in and save who he,
Yeah.
you know, the second person in the first movie that does end up becoming Goblin. At that point, it doesn't matter. He knows there's someone else. The ease in which Spider-Man is able to come in, save a baby from a burning building, and go back in, and the fact that Peter, he is successful in saving the child.
Yeah.
And he gets that moment of like going, I mean, right before the burning building, you know, he reaches for his shirt,
realizes
Spider-Man.
Oh yeah,
like,
I retired.
Oh, that's right, I stopped this. And we have moments of like the guy getting mugged and the cops coming by where Peter is like,
real quick, I like to think Tom Brady did the same thing when he retired and then like, unretired.
he's like sees a football field.
He sees a football field. He's like, yeah.
Oh wait, that's right. I don't.
Oh, it's just a suit under here now.
That's funny.
I'm an announcer.
But I like that, like, he sees those moments initially, and he just throws them off of his shoulder. And a burning build, he's like, maybe, especially like you said, after MJ being like, I'm not gonna be with you. Like, it's too little, too late. I've moved on.
Yeah, you had your shot. I gave you like 3 shots at this, and you didn't take any of them. You put me in the friend zone every time.
Yeah.
And then proceeded to not show up and be my friend either. Like, kind of brutal and fair.
Yeah. And
also, like, the fire scene kind of ends. He saves the kid and is like, okay, I can still do good without the powers. But then they're like, oh, some poor soul was trapped up on the 3rd floor. And it's just like, if he was Spider-Man, he could have totally had time to check the whole building.
Yeah. And I think actually that, if I might be wrong, but I think after that scene is am I not supposed to have what I want, what I need?
I think it is.
Because it's like,
because then he's staring at the window.
Because it is so clear that it's like, you should not give up being Spider-Man.
Is that when is it Ursula? Is that when she gives him the cookies?
Bring up,
is that in the 3rd
she
movie?
gives him the chocolate cake, which
that's
is
right.
A moment
and she's
that
like, and your aunt called or something, right?
Yes.
Yeah, which is why she's there in the first place.
I think kind of talking about like the comedic beat that maybe would be cut from a different, note from a studio executive or whatever of the elevator.
Yeah.
The chocolate cake thing feels like I could see some person being like, why do we need this? Like, shorten the runtime. Why do we need this? And it's like, Peter has been constantly beaten and like bruised by the world around him, and is also constantly like fucking people up, and like, he's just throwing MJ around emotionally like nobody's business.
Yeah.
And this, like, it's nice that we get this brief moment of like just like genuine kindness from Ursula.
Yeah, like just this reminder that like he is human and that like he deserves like a piece of kindness.
It's also just like a period of rest.
Yeah.
I think Ursula is also a character that doesn't get enough of her praises like acknowledged. No. I think she's great. She unfortunately doesn't get a lot to do, but like,
no.
I think the way she asks him, do you just want some chocolate cake? It's like such a perfect
just the way, because he's got like everything, the world needs so much of me, and then she's just like, maybe you just take a break and here's some chocolate cake.
Yeah,
like maybe just take a minute. It's like such a like so he could gather his thoughts and like go back, because then I think after is the scene,
it's the Aunt May
the Aunt May scene we were talking about. Okay, yeah, beautiful,
which is the
scene. 2 back-to-back great scenes, great pieces of like 100%. Old Hollywood kind of writing, just that like old school sensibility.
Yeah, again, like my favorite line in that speech is that they just give us the moment to hold on a second longer. That like Peter
to not give up.
Yeah, that like Peter is kind of learning to be selfless in a new way. That it's about him recognizing that he, like, yes, he could stop being Spider-Man at any time that he wants, but like, he is doing a disservice. He is again, because you have the ability to help people. Yeah. Like you therefore have the responsibility to help people.
Yes.
Which is something that I think is important for all of us to hang on to.
Yes.
I hope Henry Jackson got his $5. I'm sure.
Sure
he did. Yeah, he's love Henry Jackson. Just
bad business negotiating strategy. $5 for moving that entire thing.
It was a lot of boxes.
It was a lot of boxes. I don't think that's a good business strategy.
Yeah,
Jackson.
You're probably right. But no, I think this scene. I mean, Toby there's that hold on him where it's very clear that he's like, oh shit, I do need to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That he's like, I'm wrong. I've made a mistake.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe I'm missing this. And
and
then
he goes into the I'm back. He like goes
he
immediately goes to
tries
try to test. Yeah, he tries to be back.
I'm back. I'm back. My back.
My back. It's such
Great like 1, 2, 3 of the whole thing of like
again Toby
boom,
crushing it.
yeah.
And then going from that, like this is my favorite line reading. Is I think this is or wait, no. I'm sorry. I think I'm mistaken because
I think next is MJ's with
this is the
fiance.
This is
where
one,
the movie starts to get a little toxic.
The one moment with MJ where I'm like, maybe don't recreate the upside down kiss.
Yeah.
My read on it is that she is trying to see if the passion that she felt then is felt now.
I was watching that this morning trying to decipher the intent.
That's
on her
what
part.
I think it is. That she's like, I like this is stable. You know, again, he's like, are you interested? You know, is it serious? And she says, I like him. You know, that she's like maybe not super invested in him, and I think she
kind of isn't. But I think that's like the kind of the dilemma she's having is like this is a much safer thing to do. It would be a right decision to make.
Yes. and it's so unfortunate that she does the upside down kiss and then she realizes that she doesn't have this feeling with with John.
Yeah. Reaches out to Peter again.
Reaches out to Peter and she's like, by the way, you know what? I think I'm ready. And the way he's like, oh yeah,
hey,
about that.
Oh, like you're just watching it like Peter. God dang it, dude.
Well, because when he says initially that he's not an empty seat, he's like, there was something I thought I had to do. I don't have to. Which is him saying, I've decided I'm not going to be Spider-Man anymore. And then they're at the cafe and he's like,
I still have to do it.
Yeah, I actually realized that I really do need to do it. So
and it's like the again, from her perspective, what a wishy-washy little bitch.
At that point, I'd be like, okay, maybe we don't talk to each other anymore.
Yeah,
maybe
but then
done.
prompted with like the most like shame on you, MJ. Like she's like, kiss me, and then she puts her hand on his hand, and it cuts to the ring on her finger.
The way when we saw that in the theaters, when the ring, we show her putting the ring over his hand, the way the audience went,
like
just not like, don't do that,
don't do that. It's just like, which is funny because I think like a lot of us as kids, all those nuances go way over our head, you know. So going back and rewatching it with everyone like now 20 years older, like we understand, we've discussed in the memes of fear of this, which also again, this movie, great memes.
100%.
Like I think the first one has like a couple of memes, and then we get more memes from this one, and then I think by 3 it's just
the third one. It's like
they're just
90%
like shaking out a bag of memes, like the whole movie.
Yeah,
just memes for days.
I do love. I have a moment like we don't have to go through this scene too much, but when just before that, when Ock is trying to figure out he needs tritium and all this other stuff. And they make the whole deal. Tritium, thing, whatever. It's a MacGuffin.
Unobtainium.
It's a metal. It's the rabbit's foot in Mission Impossible 3. It doesn't really matter. Like,
do you think the thing in Mission Impossible 3 is just a huge thing of tritium?
I sure hope so. We'll maybe get into that.
We'll maybe get into that.
Knows?
Maybe in a future episode.
Harry Osborn, for as bad of a friend as he is, that he does ask Ock not to hurt Peter.
True.
To which Ock says, "You know what? Okay," and then promptly decides to throw a car at Peter Parker.
Yeah, what an
and
entrance.
Mary Jane. And then he also throws him into a brick wall.
Yeah,
precisely after.
That is concussion inducing at the least.
But I mean, we do get obviously the moment that Peter bursts out of the bricks and his powers return. The shot of him dropping the glasses,
and like the way the like lens comes out, like the sound design on that like
it's so good.
Like
we get the theme coming. It's this grand like Spider-Man's back, and we go to the Bugle.
Yeah, he's like, I don't have time for depression. I got to kick some ass.
Yes, which this is my favorite line reading in the movie is J.K. Simmons when they're sitting there and Jameson is having the reveal that Spider-Man may actually be a good guy, that maybe this is all a mistake that he's done, and he's Spider-Man was a hero. I just couldn't see it, all that stuff. And Ted Raimi comes in and goes, he's the only one that could have stopped Octavius. And the way J.K. Simmons goes, yes. It's like it's like right on his face. He like rolls his eyes far in the back of his head, farther than I've seen anybody do in my entire life.
It's so funny too, because like when he says that, when Ted Raimi chimes in with that little comment, it's like I think he's like out of focus. Like he's
out of focus.
He's just in the background, like he's in the newsroom or something. Like I matter. What I say is also important. And
it's like
just
he like
and everyone's
just
just looking at him
out.
like, no, you don't. Shut up.
It's just the way that he's like, yeah, if only he's really the only guy, and it's like no shit.
I know we kind of glossed over it, but when they're trying to come up with a name for Dr. Octopus, and he's like Dr. Octopus, he's all like crap.
Oh yeah, mega crap. All that.
What are the names he comes up with?
He says,
what are the names?
Dr. Octopus, and he goes, "That's bad." Doctor. Well, the other one is Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange is the big one. There's a second one in
obviously-
that I can't remember. Which that's a whole
good, but it's taken.
good, but it's taken.
I'm trying to think. I don't know what it is. Is it just Doc Ock, Doctor Strange, and then the third beat is
it's
I've
like
got
Mr.
it.
Tentacles or something like that, or no?
Science Squid.
Science Squid.
Science Squid. Terrible name.
Terrible name. Bruce Campbell would have like on the spot been like the amazing
Science Squid. That is that's Ted Raimi, fantastic, wonderful.
I also
love him.
like just shout out to that scene. Then we can go back to getting into the trilogy because I know we got to start to
getting into the best action sequence in the movie.
One of the greatest action sequences ever committed to celluloid.
Totally.
I think. But the acknowledgement of a man named Doc Ock has extra arms, like just the like the irony, like.
Well, I think that's good because like No Way Home is a movie that I like, but I know people point at when they laugh at Dr. Octopus's name because of haha he has 8 limbs. I do think that it's not like inherently bad to acknowledge the silliness of comic book movies, but I do think this is a example of how to do it where he's just like, what do you know?
Yeah,
like
it's
maybe
very like wow,
that
happened.
Because also he goes Dr. Octopus, and then his whole like Doc Ock, like when he's like coming up with the name is so good. But yeah, we go from there. Peter is now officially back as Spider-Man. He like bursts through the newspaper. Yes, he steals the suit. You get the great friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah, and then you get the I want Spider-Man. Like,
and we get this
so
great,
committed.
Him swinging through New York again. Again, Bill Pope's cinematography. We get this wonderful golden hour, like all this other stuff. And we get this like contact, like the shot of like the New York blocks and blocks into
like
Otto's glasses.
Some real king shit in that sequence. Yeah.
I mean, there are so many sequences where Raimi's just like showing off.
He really just like stunting on everything. Like,
and I feel like there was like a time where CinemaSins ruled the internet, where people would be like, "Those trains don't exist in New York." Blah 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 blah. I don't care. People also don't climb walls. It doesn't matter.
Rock climbing is a sport. I just want to throw this out there really quick.
Oh my God, is CinemaSins right?
No, but no.
No, they're not.
No, they're not. But no, it's like Sam Raimi's like ideal perfect New York has the elevated trains.
Yeah,
and, like the sequence is so cool. Who gives a shit?
I love like this sequence is so good. Like it's so kinetic. It's one of those things where it's like I think I have a note where I'm like I have nothing to say. I have no more comment to add on this train sequence other than the fact that it's perfect.
It is a perfect sequence. I have no notes. We already talked about how cool it is when he like jumps through the bridge.
Yes.
Even though the mechanics of him traveling on the train don't line up.
When
the
edit
is so sick anyway. It doesn't matter.
The other train goes past him and he has to like,
just lay there.
Yeah.
And wait.
Kind of Matrix or whatever. Fantastic. This also is the moment where we kind of get the you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us kind of reprise from the first movie.
Save the day.
Shout out Phil Lamar.
Phil Lamar
in the movie.
Voice of Samurai Jack in
Samurai Jack, Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Like
John Stewart Green Lantern.
He's the best. And it's nice to see him just like
arguably a defining voice of the childhood. He's also, fun fact, he's in Pulp Fiction.
He is in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
that's right. He's one of the guys.
He's in
the beginning.
That's a tasty burger.
Yeah. He's in that whole thing.
What is it? Marvin? Is it Marvin?
I want to say I haven't seen Pulp Fiction.
Why can't I remember who it is? It's okay. Spoiler alert. We know what happens to Phil Lamar in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
it's kind of
not end
integral to the plot, but we're not just talking about Pulp Fiction right now. And if we need one more of those,
yes, I think also I have like, what I love about Tobey's Spider-Man is like he's constantly being put up against obstacles. I think, and I love fight choreography. I think all that stuff is great, but I think again, I think we referenced it in the first episode, like the kind of like Jackie Chan underdog thing. Like he's constantly having these things in his way.
Down and work his way up.
He has to say Ock is literally throwing civilians off of the train.
I know, and he's just like snagging them, like.
And I love that when he's trying to stop the train, that Peter, he doesn't immediately go to the webs. We get the beat where he tries to figure out another way to figure it out.
Yeah.
Also, that the train driver, that he tries to do the foot thing, and the train car conductor is like, asks him if he has better ideas.
What
like,
a New York thing to do.
People again continue to just like hate Peter Parker and just make fun of him for being an idiot. I will say, it's 2004. It's still early in superhero movies. I don't love having to constantly do Christ metaphors. There's the moment where he's like got his arm out, and I'm like,
after he saves everyone.
It maybe is not as played out at this point in time that the movie is coming out.
Yeah.
But like, I don't need it. I'm okay. You know what I mean?
We get it.
Yeah, I get it. He saves people. Sure.
Yeah.
But that moment then goes into, obviously, you mess with one of us, like everybody, we were coming together. Like we won't tell anybody. Like
such a fun, like cute moment. Like
he's like my son. We recognize that Tobey Maguire is clearly like 35.
Yeah.
But whatever. Like that is such a great. It's important that again, at the end of the day, Spider-Man is a person, and that is what makes him so relatable. Is that he's not anybody else. Sold to Stanley, World Outside Your Window, all that stuff. And getting to see New Yorkers band together, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that thing that I miss is the focus on the people. I feel like we've gotten very occupied in like putting superheroes in like random bland set pieces that are open and I'm not endorsing the like public destruction of something like a Man of Steel or whatever, but like I think it's like they're not like paramilitary groups. You know what I mean? What's important about superheroes is that they do save people, that they inspire people, like Aunt May says, to teach us to hold on a second longer and to be brave and all this other stuff. And I think these movies, specifically the second one, like hits that nail so perfectly. Yeah. And I think what's always nice about revisiting this movie is that I'm reminded how important that is and how much I miss it and how I wish it was something that we get more. How something I hope that I'm really hoping James Gunn's Superman
kind of
delivers on. I'm really hopeful. That first trailer really got me excited. I was already excited, but like, I love that even in the trailer we're seeing Superman save people. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I think that the people are as key to this as the action sequences. And maybe that's my biggest takeaway, is that despite alongside Sam Raimi's incredible direction and Elfman's score and incredible performances by the actors, like the people are really what make this as important and effective as it is.
It's such an insane ensemble, and then the fact that like literally down to the extras, it's like such a it really does make these movies kind of what they are.
After that, Peter gets knocked out, and we get the great moment where he is dropped off at the Osborn family. Yes. Another Maker's Mark
Yes,
cameo.
I was gonna say another Maker's Mark.
They keep popping up there.
We have our own in the studio right now. We have our own bottle of Maker's Mark nearby.
That's true. It's currently off
camera. You
camera.
can't see it, but we'll take a photo and post it on the gram.
Yes. I do think Bernard should retire.
Yes.
Not a question mark. A period. Bernard should retire.
Yes, he should.
He's too old. Harry is mean for keeping him employed. Like just his I'm retiring for the night, sir.
It's really late.
This butler is far too old. Harry should not allow this person to be employed anymore. But I do think, I think Franco plays this moment really well of the reveal. I love the sound design of the wires that Peter's trapped in when he kind of bursts out of
Yeah,
them.
the like the
stringy
the
metal
what
kind
is
of.
it? It's not piano wire. It's like razor wire. or
Yeah,
something,
razor
you know?
wire, whatever. But I do think Franco plays this part really well. Just the pure shock in his face.
Yeah, and the way he like drops the knife, if he's just like, oh, like
It's-
all the guilt that like kind of rolls through him there, like
Yeah, 100%. And like,
which like the amount of shit talking he's been doing, like the amount of embarrassment he's got to feel too, like
oh yeah, he's completely speechless. And even he's got that moment where he's like, "You killed my dad." Like kind
it's
of
like what the hell, man?
like, wait, you're Spider-Man, and Toby's.
And you didn't tell me?
I don't know where I feel on Toby's response. It's one of those ones where I'm like, this is a bad thing to say. Like, this is your friend, but also, yeah, Dr. Octopus is creating a big, massive sun that he's going to ignite in the middle of Manhattan.
Yeah.
But him saying there are greater things happening than you and me, where he's just like
Get
put
over
a
it.
put a pin in it. Like, frankly, I have more important stuff to do than the fact that you think I killed your dad.
He's like, dig on this.
100%. Like, I mean, he obviously says he's got MJ and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but I just think Peter, how bold of him to be like, your dead dad isn't important right now.
It's like we don't got time for this. Although to be fair, we don't have time for this.
That, yes, it is like, it is a
man's
nuclear sun.
Going to do some weird interstellar thing in the middle of Manhattan, so we should maybe
Yes.
stop that first.
But going back to this whole thing of him building this machine, like the machine is kind of whatever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's not. It's a threat. We talked about in the first episode. I do love how small scale the threat is of Goblin. That
Yeah,
he's
it's just like
kind
a
of like
petty guy. Like he's more
guy.
like a serial killer.
Yeah, and like obviously he's doing horrible things. I'm not downplaying any of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But like we're not
In
doing
terms
some
of scope of his
big world
big plan,
ending
it's
thing.
more like I just want to pick on people.
Yeah, totally. And like
Whereas like Doc Ock really just wants to like prove that like he was right about the thing.
100. That's one of my note is that it says love that ultimately Ock's mission is to prove himself right.
Yeah,
That's
this
all that
movie's about
matters.
self-confidence, if anything. Like
It's
he's
not
having
about-
confidence issues
True.
about the whole
honestly.
thing.
It's not about at this point. It's no longer about energy or giving it to people. It's just about making sure that he did not miscalculate.
Yeah. Which
yeah.
again he did.
Yes. He definitely did. Question about a thing to ask because we talked about does Mary Jane know or does Aunt May know that Peter's
Yeah.
Spider-Man? The question I'm going to ask is does Mary Jane know? We kind of play a little fast and loose.
So I think the thing is I think she suspects / wants him to be Spider-Man. Like I think she kind of wishes they were the same person because I think we talked about it last week that
she like reacts to the kiss.
she reacts to the kiss, and that like even when she's like up there being saved by Spider-Man, like it's like there's this guy that sees me as something more, like as like a real person, and like that is such an attractive quality for her, such a good green flag that Peter has. Like when he like one of his green flags,
despite constant red flags.
despite the perceived red flags of this adventure, I think it's that thing of like she really kind of it's more like a fantasy, I guess, not like in like a lewd like I have a fantasy like not like one of those fantasy, but just like ideally like this just like no like him seeing me for who I am kind of saved me in a way, and like where's my hero? Peter was my Spider-Man. Like they're kind of like have this like similarity kind of thing, and so I think she knows for sure, obviously, because there's
at this point she definitely
once
knows.
he like wins and she sees him, it's like oh my god. Like I kind of like thought about it, but like come on, like how could you be Spider-Man? But now like actually doing the math is mathing harder than it's ever mathed before. So I think it's the thing of like I think she doesn't know. I think there's probably moments where she like suspects or like thinks about it, but then always just kind of does that like that's a crazy thought.
There's no way.
There's no way, and then like seeing it, it's like all of it like clicks, and it's like I get why you're so weird.
Yeah, well, they have a moment right where she's like,
well,
"Isn't
they do.
that
It's
why?"
where it's like because then they Spidey and Ock tussle a little bit, and then there's that realization that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and then he's that what's the line?
Where he's brilliant but lazy.
Brilliant but lazy.
He realizes
like,
what that means.
And then what is the thing that he echoes back to him, or we have a responsibility or something?
He echoes that sometimes we have to give up the things we love, even our dreams, like that thing. Because
to do the right thing. Or
I do love that the train sequence is the peak of our action.
it is.
That
It
when
is.
we
Like
get
the action
to the
sequence is like that. This sequence isn't about topping the train sequence. It is the emotional weight of everything that we've been talking about is coming to a head.
Yeah.
But they're just that like oh God, I gotta pull up the quote. Yeah, but that moment where he's just like we can choose who we are supposed to be now, like literally like the Iron Giant, like now choose, like kind of thing. That like then he goes off like I can drown it in the river, I will not be a monster, and there's like that great moment. I wrote down there's the shot of him like he gets up, he walks above him, the water is like dripping off of him, and he like.
His hero moment.
It's like his hero moment. He turns back, like the lighting. He's like backlit by this like sun he's created, and he just looks back. No words. They just go like goodbye.
Yeah.
Like remember that I was a hero and not a monster. Like that's like what I am. Such like gave me chills this time.
It's perfect. This movie's perfect. It's great.
And then to go from that goodbye to turns the love of my life.
Yeah,
sees me for what I am.
She's got that like wide-eyed look.
Yeah, and it's like I get it, but then I think it's a church, right, that they're in.
Oh, the building? I actually don't know.
This is the note I wanted to bring up that I was pocketing earlier. The idea of like I've always thought you would get married in a church on some big hill or whatever. If that is a church, that moment where he catches like the side of the building and they're talking, and he's like, "You do love me." He's like, "I do."
Yeah, that's true.
He says I do, like in the middle of a church, like they're about to die, and it's like they're kind of doing their vows in that moment. And I just think that's the thing I picked up on this time, that it's like this is them kind of getting married right now.
Yeah, this moment where they really are connected. Well, yeah, they're connected.
Yeah,
like, everything is coming to light. I also do love that despite Peter's super strength, that things are still heavy to him.
Yes.
I think that's very important.
This is very heavy.
Yeah, that he's like very clearly struggling is a great thing from Toby.
That's such a great moment. But then he tosses the building, he grabs the girl, they escape, seemingly swinging away on nothing.
I also think it's great because it's also that they really do swing away. What was the writer? It's like if Spider-Man's swinging away on nothing, it's just a helicopter.
There's a helicopter conveniently nearby.
I agree.
Channel 5 News.
But I like this is the first time Peter's been able to have a conversation with someone like about Spider-Man. I know he does it with the Doctor, but like the implications and the consequences of being Spider-Man. That
it's not really an honest conversation, but
that she's like, so this is why you've been so distant. You know, his whole Spider-Man will always have enemies, so we can't be together. And she's, jumping ahead to the end of the movie. She's like, isn't it time that somebody saved you? Yeah. That it's like.
She's like, I like that she's like, I love that you respect me or something, but you didn't like let me make this decision myself. Like I should have been like in on this. Like that's a good relationship.
Yeah. Like if you really wanted, like, communication is an important thing.
Interesting. That would work for them.
Yeah. That communication would be helpful.
Good communication habits.
Who knew?
Really, the biggest theme of this movie, just not really talking to people about things.
No, constantly not discussing how you feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also, and like, I love that she like acknowledged, like Peter's often like regarded as like mysterious and unknowable. Yeah. And that there's this moment where, she's like, oh, okay. No, you are you're like a dork, but like the reason that I see this, that we see this weird kind of veil around you is this side hustle that you've been doing, being the hero of New York City.
So they do that. He drowns it in the river, saves the day.
And John Jameson comes in.
John Jameson shows up, tries to rescue her, in his own little way,
as he only can. Yeah,
as he only can, since he's just a man.
Yes, that's true.
And then from there we go into the wedding.
The wedding,
which has my favorite line reading of.
I think it is.
Cole Deborah, the caterer. Tell her not to open the caviar.
Fantastic. Jameson under the wire, throwing in one
just
last.
Like Indiana Jones grabbing the hat, like one last great line.
One perfect moment. Poor John Jameson again. Yeah. Maybe not the most interesting guy in the world, but his
only crime is being kind of boring.
Yeah, he's unfortunately that guy, but he does get left at the altar.
Yeah, left at the altar.
And we get a brief cameo from not Thomas Jane, but Thomas Jane's stunt double, intended to be the Punisher.
Yes. And then they also wanted to do a Wolverine cameo, but couldn't get the suit.
I think in the first one, I think they wanted to get Jackman as Wolverine.
Okay. Fun.
And then it just didn't work out.
And it just didn't work out, which I'm kind of okay with. I feel like these movies are so self-contained.
Yeah.
Throwing those in at the very end would have been like, whoa.
Yeah, ultimately, like any kind of bit like that, it's like, as long as we are story first, you know what I mean? I'm not interested in having people pop up for the sake of them popping up.
Yeah.
You know, if there's I think what No Way Home, we're not talking about No Way Home, but the way that it does well is that it integrates those characters in a way that feels, natural.
Yeah.
Or at least as natural as it can be.
Yeah.
But
Given
I think
all the other stuff going on.
But what I love about this and the last movie is that like we just end with like two characters talking to each other. That
Talking
it's
to
just
each other.
about
Just committing to each
people.
other. Yeah,
Yeah.
It goes back to the human relationship, and it's just boy meets girl finally,
yeah.
like being with girl. Like he finally gets the girl,
And he goes off and he swings off into the, into the night or into the sunset, I suppose.
Yes.
And I do have a note that I recognize when we saw it in the theater. What I think is interesting is that when we open the movie, it's MJ on the billboard and she's on the left side of the screen.
Yeah.
And when the final shot of this movie, we get the whole Spider-Man swinging through these helicopters moving in a way that only CGI helicopters can move.
Helicopters can do. Yeah.
And then we cut back and the final shot of the movie is not on Spider-Man, but it's on MJ. And instead of being on the left side of the screen, she is now on the right. She has traveled to the other side of the screen, and she is actually in front of us. It's not a billboard.
We're seeing her really.
Yeah.
I was gonna say because I always forget that this one, because the first one ends with him like landing on the flagpole and then like swinging into the screen, and it goes like directed by Sam Raimi, and you go like, I'm so hyped right now. I need one more. And then with this one though, you think it's gonna end the same way, but then it cuts back to MJ like watching him leave.
Yeah.
And there's a weird sadness.
Yeah.
That I don't think I've ever like clocked before.
Well, I think I honestly clocked, I had the same reaction rewatching this, that like going back to what we've talked about the first movie and the kind of thesis of this podcast of do we need one more, is the narrative, is there narrative runway? Do we have implications that we can lead into a story that actually makes sense to continue a story and not because this movie made X amount of dollars at the box office?
Yeah.
That moment of like somewhat melancholy is almost this idea of like, we've opened us up to the truth.
Yeah.
And we understand that this is how this, Peter has to be Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have to ask the question, like, what does that mean? What is that like? How do you go on with someone like, he is back to being Spider-Man. He hasn't mastered being Spider. He's not mastered the balance. He just recognizes that this is something that he has to accept.
Yes.
And now what?
Yeah. I think it is. It's kind of like The Graduate, like that ending of like the real work is going to begin now. I guess that's not really what The Graduate's going for, but like in this instance, there's this sort of like ellipses of like, what now? And like, I think it does kind of tee up what the third movie ends up like, and how like difficult it is to manage a relationship as Spider-Man.
Totally.
So with that in mind, let's just taking going from 2 to 3, do you think we needed one more?
100%. I think this is one where like, kind of like the first one, I think it's not like, if it had ended here, I would have been like still satisfied. I mean, I would have been walking out of the theater having just watched maybe the best comic book movie ever made.
Yeah.
Especially at the time.
Yes.
Like, I would have been like, we've reached this high point, maybe there is that, you have the like hindsight 2020 Spider-Man 3, is kind of regarded in the, it's shorthand for insert name of bad movie. People say Spider-Man 3. I don't know if I fully believe that. It's easy for us to say, you shouldn't have made another one. It was definitely
like a weaker one. But
sure.
Like, I think as we've gone forward, I think it's better than we gave it credit for.
Yes, but I think it doesn't. I don't think it ends as open in terms of like how all the many like plot and like story avenues you could go down. Like the first one does. The first one, there's like 1,000 things. I guess we tease actually. I take that back. We do end with Harry teeing up to be the Goblin.
True.
Which is a bit of a fan service. It's nice to see Defoe come back.
Yeah.
But I would say
avenge me.
Totally. I would say yes. I think we need one more. If only for the question of what now that is on MJ's face. I think that is more interesting than the tease of Harry becoming the Goblin.
Yeah, I think in retrospect, like now that I've like grown up and can see more of these kind of details, I think that is the more interesting question.
That
of, like,
did not hit me as hard as the MJ one did.
Yeah, it's like I mean, as a kid, you're obviously like psyched, like, oh, we're gonna get new Goblin, like we're gonna get Harry Osborn as the Green Goblin, and like that's so cool. But it's like, the relationship that has also kind of defined the trilogy of them is like, well, so now what? Like, there is more story to tell. So I'm similar, but I really was like, I need one more after 2, certainly going into 3.
And I mean, obviously these movies speak for themselves. It's been 20 years and these movies are still...
They hold up.
We are still kind of chasing the bar that these movies have set.
Yes.
Not to say that there have been comic movies that are not as good, but, you know, again, who knew? Spider-Man 2, good movie.
Spider-Man 2, good movie.
Time.
Probably defied a lot of expectations at the time of like, can we do another good one? But they did. So.
And it's in the very rare camp of movies better than the original. I love the first Spider-Man movie, but I do think this movie improves on it in ostensibly, genuinely in every way. I
would agree with that. I still teeter-totter with which one is my favorite.
Fair, totally fair.
I think there was a long time where 2 was my favorite, and I think these days I kind of think the first one is better.
Sure.
Only because of some of the ickiness that happens with their relationship in this one.
Sure,
and some of
that's
MJ's
totally fair.
Choices and everything. Like it's sort of it's like, oh, come on, guys, like kind of thing. But that aside, like it still I think works in the context of the story they're trying to tell. So I don't think that's like by no means bad writing.
Sure.
Which I think it can be confused with, but I think it is more interesting than I think people on the internet would give credit for too.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
and
that's Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2, 2004.
Good time. 5 out of 5.
Next week we'll really get to go into
we'll really get into the question of, do we need one more?
Yes.
Do we come back to the Raimi-averse?
Yeah.
And and pick up, see what's left. Like answer that question of one more.
I'm gonna call this out right now. We'll get into it in the next episode. Topher Grace's Venom gets better as time goes on.
Hot take.
That's a hot take. I'm gonna just do that just to tease us into the next episode. The more I watch it, the more into it I am.
All right. Well, I look forward to next week to find out. I'm going to put you on trial for that one, I think.
You can totally do it. I understand it's not a
not that I
popular
disagree.
take.
I honestly, I'm like trying to think. I'm always like, how do I feel about this still? Like, I'm really like racking my brain.
I also just really like Topher Grace.
That is fair.
But we'll get into it.
We'll get into that.
I think as time has gone on, some certain movies have come out. I think we look back at Venom in this next movie a little too harshly.
That's maybe.
Not to say there's not criticism. We'll get into it. Just teeing everybody up for next week.
We'll get into it next week.
Yes.
So
please follow along. We're very excited to be doing this, and we're excited to be talking about it.
And do we want to tee people up for what's coming after Spider-Man, or we want to save that for next week?
Do we spoil it for the next week?
Okay,
we've teased a couple things here. We've got some.
We've been throwing out some ideas.
Some little Easter eggs. We're doing our own Marvel thing.
See if you can figure out what you think the next movie series is going to be. I think that might be fun.
Yeah. But yeah, and also, people watching on YouTube, let us know what you guys want us to cover next.
Yeah.
And people listening to us on Spotify, thank you so much for listening. And Apple Podcasts, everywhere you get your podcasts, we really appreciate it.
Make sure to follow the show on Instagram and TikTok.
Instagram and TikTok. We'll be on YouTube and
everything
like
Twitter,
that.
but that's not a real thing anymore. So
no, unfortunately, it's not. It has now become Biff's nightmare from Back to the Future 2.
It's just trash can fires.
Have you noticed it's become a weird casino hellscape?
That's hilarious.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. I have been Matthew Davies-Morris.
I'm David Patrick Vera.
And we will see you in the next one.
We'll see you in the next one, guys.
Catch you later. Thank you for listening to We Need One More.
Be sure to follow us on socials like TikTok and Instagram at WNOM Podcast to stay up to date on upcoming episodes.
And feel free to join our Discord community where you can share your thoughts on the movies we're watching together. That's going to be at WNOM Podcast server with a link in the bio.
Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. That's the best way to support the show and to let us know that you need one more.
We'll see you next week. This podcast is produced by Pilot 9 and 9 Ball Creative.